that if it,
that's me again. You're telling me to both take a break and to stay on.
That was my point. Well, take a break for about 2 minutes is what I meant.
Because, 2 minutes? Oh, okay.
Yeah, because you got it back at 4 o'clock, and they're supposed to be cricket.
Right. We could play a marketing jingle.
A couple of other tweets. Paul Kemp says, "Hi Gorillas, hope you're all well. Tuning in for the first time after a very busy summer of just dipping in and out of some great cricket. I find the best prediction data is often the probable outcomes given by spread betting companies." Interesting. Leah the Witch says, "The German women have played 2 games against Austria today and failed to lose a single wicket on the way to 2 victories. Well done, German women, and commiserations to the Austrian women."
Yeah, mighty impressive. And those games...
Well, you're depressed.
Yeah, those games are being fully live streamed in multi-camera live streams. The fact that by a private company, the fact that they can do that, and some counties still can't have more than 2 cameras, one at each end, and you see part of the game from the wicketkeeper's arse, I think shows a kind of paucity of ambition of some teams, and indeed the fact that Australia once cancelled a tour against Bangladesh because they couldn't find a TV broadcaster.
Yeah, that's not so good, is it? Well, I'll leave you in the hands of Gary and Knackle, and we're waiting. Who's the other man we're waiting for?
We're waiting for Jules Farman. In fact, we're waiting no longer. Jules is here. How are you doing, Jules?
I'm all good. It's the end of days in South Norwood at the moment, so apologies for any thunder and lightning.
Yep, there's definitely an apocalypse happening here in southeast London.
It's phenomenal. I'm loving it though. Absolutely loving it. We need some fresh air, so it's all good. And I hope the rain gets to the places where it hasn't done so far. I think Essex is struggling at the moment, so let's hope the rain comes over that way.
You've been able to see much of today's slightly truncated session. Should you say we're restarting the cricket in Southampton in just under 2 minutes. Pakistan resume at 85 for 2. 1 ball left of a Sam Curran over. Fawad Alam is on 7. Abid Ali is on 49, and we'll get some jingles in because we're about to restart play.
Is he a batter or bowler? Sam Curran. What's his distinguishing feature? Sam Curran. His dad's from Zimbabwe. Sam Curran. And he's beloved by Liz Yates. Sam Curran.
He doesn't, because he's a cricketer from Pakistan and he's a really good one. Thank you very much. Abid Ali sends out warning, suppose he will be falling. Usually on a nice printed card.
Dark and gloomy skies in southeast London, greyish cloud on the south coast. Fawad Alam, as I said, is on 7. Abid Ali on 49, 1 away from a 3rd test match, 50 plus score. I'm Knuckle Mpande here on Gorilla Cricket, taking you through the next 40 minutes of the first day of Pakistan's 2nd test against England. They trail 1-0 after that magnificent rear guard by Wokes and Butler. In comes Sam Curran to finish that interrupted over. Left arm over the wicket, a full outswinger which Barber defends into the offside. There is no run. Pakistan 85 for 2. And I think, Jules, you have social media.
Yeah, I do. So Eric Willis has said a good argument for data analysis. So just for a little bit of an interruption, just in case anybody missed it, they were just talking about data analysis used in cricket and predicting wins and equating that to the A-level results. He says a good argument for data analysis is, unlike hunches, it can be checked after the fact in a systematic way.
Close of play is 6:30 today with an extra half hour till 7 p.m. if the light allows. I think it's as you were before the break and before tea. Yes, the man with now 592 test wickets will continue from the hotel end. Anderson in, and Abid Ali goes to 50, but in slightly streaky fashion. It was a full swinging delivery. Abid pushed at it. It squirted off the outside edge, bounced short of the slip cordon, bounced through the slip cordon, and Abid Ali, not without alarm, he's been dropped twice on 1 and 21, goes to his 3rd 50-plus score in Test matches.
50 runs, your 50 runs. Well done, well done, well done, well done. 50 runs, your 50 runs. The job is only just begun.
Both on both previous occasions that he's got to 50, he's made it to 100. Those were in his first 2 test matches. Abid Ali, 51 off 99 deliveries with 6 fours. I think pretty much all behind square. Some down to long leg and some through the slip cordon.
He's rode his luck a little bit, but you need to do that if you're up against Broad and Anderson under cloudy skies on the first day of a test. So well played to him. As you say, he's got to really go on now and justify that, and his record is pretty good. He's come into Test cricket with a bang. So let's see if he can continue to deliver.
Stuart Broad on sawdust duty, just making sure that his great mate Jimmy doesn't fall over as he runs in. He's in to Abid Ali as the sun threatens to burst through the clouds at Southampton. That's back of a length and punched by Abid Ali into the onside, fielded at mid-wicket. There is no run. We're seeing those boundaries from Abid Ali. Yeah, one cover drive, a couple of clips behind square on the leg side, and then a few through third man. But that's, as you say, Gary, that's sometimes how it goes on the first morning of a test match as an opener. It's no bad thing to be a lucky cricketer.
Lucky general.
Anderson in, really bright sunshine now at Southampton, which seems remarkable given how relatively close we are here in the southeast London hellmouth. Back of a length, and Abid pushes into the offside. There is no run. I'll stop going on about how dark it is outside.
Interesting to see who Root picks at the other end. Obviously, Sam Curran had to complete his over, but I would expect Broad to come back at the other end.
I was just about to ask you that very question. I think you're probably right. 4th ball of the over from James Anderson, taken both wickets to fall thus far. Abid thinks about pushing this into the covers, but then just checks his shot and pushes it into the offside. There is no run. A little bit of uncertainty, but you'd expect that after a break with the ball moving. Pakistan have had a couple of chances. Abid's been dropped on 1 and 21. There was a ball to Azhar Ali which bounced off both his inside thighs and just dribbled into the base of the stumps and didn't knock the bails off, but Pakistan will be happy enough at 87 for 2. In comes Anderson. A little even of a heat haze developing at the Aegeus Bowl. Full delivery, a little bit of a way swing, and Abid defends up to Stuart Broad at mid on. There is no run.
Absolutely surreal that there's cricket being played and we're probably 40 miles up the road, maybe a little bit more. It's just to try to sort of grasp what's going on.
Yes, indeed. Now it's a little bit of cloud, but quite a lot of white cloud, but a little pocket of blue sky as Anderson is in. Right arm over the wicket, beats Abid Ali on the outside edge. This has been a session and a day of balls beating the outside edge and taking the outside edge, but Abid Ali is still there, and there can be little higher praise for a test match opener in England against James Anderson. Tweets.
So Leah has said there's definitely an apocalypse happening in South London. Also, the weather's a bit shit. Badumtus. And Jeff Perkins has said, is it time for Gorillas to provide a percent doomed with these pronouncements? Anna Forsyth has said, I can't believe I was awake enough to make an argument for data analysis, but not enough to realise I was getting dressed looking at Southampton weather forecast and not Vancouver.
How did that turn out? No, it is going to be Sammy Curran, who, to be fair, has got the ball to swing both ways in this day of Test cricket. A full in-swinger to Fawad Alam must have taken inside edge because there's absolutely no appeal. Would have been crashing into the stumps, but must have taken an inside edge of Pakistan's premier batter. If the offside it goes, there is no run. We've got an interesting contrast of lighting between the two of you. Gary is silhouetted and dark, and Jules is in a quite nicely lit broom cupboard.
Also known as my front room.
All right. There's Curran charges in. One sleeve up, one sleeve down. There's another full delivery that swings into Fawad Alam. He blocks this back to the bowler. There is no run. Sam Curran wearing that TB grip sleeve on his non-bowling arm. Oh, I should say there was also, in terms of chances missed or not taken by England, there might have been one that Abid Ali nicked through to the keeper, but England didn't review or indeed appeal.
Yeah, I was sceptical about that because the shape of the spike on the ultra edge looked all wrong to me. It looked like a scratch on the pitch rather than an edge off the bat.
Short of a link delivery that doesn't really do anything, and Barber clips this nicely into the leg side. Stuart Broadfield's down at long leg. They come through for 2. Babar Azam moves to 9.
I'm a big fan of Sam Curran, and I always want him to get in the side one way or another. But I do think that on the principle of do what your opponents least want you to do, that having Stuart Broad coming in now will be a lot better than having Sam Curran coming in now.
I would tend to agree. I suppose it's worth going with for an over or two to see if anything can result. Another one that swings away from Babar Azam. He meets it with a full face of the bat, punches firmly back to the bowler. There is no run. I think I've seen Sam Curran bowl more genuine outswingers in this spell today, and again I would love to see the actual figures to see if I'm talking absolute nonsense, than I've seen him bowl in a spell previously. He's got an actual genuine outswinger, not just the ball that goes across the right-hander. You'll probably have seen a little bit more than Sam Curran than I have at county level, certainly, Gary, so I'll come to you after that one. One away, one in. Classic English swing bowling. Barber blocks up to mid-off. There is no run.
Well, I always used to say that Sam Curran would swing the ball in any circumstances on any ground. There's a lot of left armers seem to have. He just has that ability to get something in the air one way or the other, sort of at all times. But he's got it a little bit, but he hasn't had big swing today. Nobody has.
Back of a length, and Barber punches off the back foot up to Anderson. Wokes at mid-off. There is no run. Pakistan after 36 overs, 89 for 2. More social media.
So relatively quite quiet just after tea on the old Twitter sphere. So please do get in contact. We've got Tanvir Khan with us on YouTube. So a big hello to you. Paul Kemp is with us and says, I have no sky picture despite it not at all being stormy in the beautiful garden city of Belper, Derbyshire. Is it really a dark and damp bowling paradise post-storm in Southampton?
Looks quite nice. Honestly, it looks perfectly pleasant. There's a bit of movement, you'd expect that. A little bit more off the pitch, as Gary's been saying. But it looks nice enough. The sun is starting to burst through the clouds. 4 slips in play for Anderson to Abid Ali, who forces this off the back foot. It's a little bit early on the stroke, and so it takes the bottom hand off the bat to try and keep it down, and it dribbles rather into the covers, and they come through for 2 as Sam Curran has to run round to his left to field from mid-off.
Yeah, you're right, he was early on the stroke. I just wonder if the ball's stuck in the pitch a little bit there, because pitches can go a bit tacky, not just if there was a little bit of rain on it, but sweating under the covers, as they used to say, and with the atmosphere being heavy. So maybe that's why Curran is bowling, because he does have a cutter. Be nice to see it though.
Yeah, we haven't seen his cutter. He bowled it very well in the one test match he has played this summer, as Anderson comes in outside off stump and left alone by Abid Ali, rising through to Butler. There is no run. I think that James Anderson really wants rather to be bowling at Babar Azam to try and dismiss him early with that outswinger that Barber might chase. Abid Ali a little bit more disciplined outside off stump than the princely Babar Azam, who is an absolute treat to watch when he's batting well, as he has been for most of the last 2 years.
Strength being a weakness is often the case in cricket. He's got so many shots that sometimes think he might have too many.
That one's risen on Abid a little bit, and he fends it awkwardly through where a leg gully would have been. Not often you'd have a leg gully for James Anderson. It looks no, Michael Goff is not going to signal leg bias, so it obviously came off something, bat or glove. An interesting delivery from Anderson, as one slightly stops in the wicket, the other one zips through. This is not easy batting condition despite the sun. Yeah, just a little fend off the rib cage and off the glove, I think. Nowhere near a fielder. Barber is now going to face up to James Anderson, who dismissed him in the last test match just after a session break with a full delivery that Barber couldn't resist driving at. He leaves this though slightly flamboyantly outside off stump. There is no run. It's very much the same line of attack to Babar Azam as it would be to Virat Kohli in a test match early in the innings.
Yeah, with Kohli you've got to get him stretching for the ball, playing it outside his eye line on the 6th or 7th stump line, and often you've got to have two gullies for it because he can reach for the ball and it can skew off an outside edge. He hasn't really bowled as wide as that so far, Anderson, but he has that up his sleeve. Up his short sleeve, you might say.
Yes, indeed. In comes Anderson, tongue sticking out as though he's a left-arm spinner. A little bit too wide and too short, I think, primarily for Babar Azam to be playing a shot at that. Leaves it through to the keeper, there is no run. Again, good carry from Anderson, Butler taking it head height. 92 for 2, Pakistan.
That's almost an illustration there, because you can... Maybe it's just me reading into it, but Babar Azam going down doing a bit of gardening there. You can almost see him thinking, I should have hit that for 4, I could have deflected that, I could have uppercut that, I could have square cut it. And he's got so many options that you just get the feeling he's going to pick a wrong one soon.
Not if you bowl it there, he's not. That's back of a length and punched beautifully through mid-wicket by Babar Azam. Big outfield, short, slow outfield beat down to Babar, times the pants off that through mid-wicket. Pakistan, after 37 overs, 96 for 2.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Beautiful shot from Babar Azam.
Yeah, they're there to be hit, but you've still got to hit them well. And lovely just break of the wrists on contact to send it to mid-wicket.
Quite slow on this. Oh, sorry. Go on. I was just saying it's quite slow on the social media, so do get in contact. But quite interestingly, for the 54 runs that Abid Ali is currently on, about 32 of them have been actually scored behind him, which I find quite an interesting little stat for us to work with.
Yeah, 4 of his 5 boundaries have come behind square. As Curran is into that self-same man, and there's another one behind square. To be fair, about 3 of them have been a leg stump half volley, which is clipped away fine, and he again clips away fine very well. 4 runs.
Now my engine's going, great guns, I hit the ball, 4 runs, I hit the ball, and it went for 4 runs.
You're going to bowl somebody a half volley just outside leg stump, it will be no surprise when they clip your way through fine leg.
Yeah, that was a pretty poor ball. So 2 pretty bad deliveries from England. The last ball of Jimmy Anderson's over, the first of Sam Curran's. So England should be looking to bowl some dot balls here.
Yeah.
They might just start to get away if there's another boundary in this over.
100 up for Pakistan now, 100 for 2 in the 38th over. This is back of a length and punched by Abid into the onside. There is no run. I think there is just enough swing to tempt bowlers into trying to bowl that magic ball. It's interesting conditions for a bowling side, I think. Stuart Broad is now warming
top
up.
Top off stump is usually
leg.
the best target for a bowling side, regardless of conditions, and I'm suggesting top of off stump now.
Yeah, generally doesn't go too far wrong. That's a little bit too middle stump, and Abid can go back and clip through the vacant square leg. Ollie Pope races around from squarish, or races back towards the boundary from squarish mid-wicket, and they come through for an easy 2. Abid moves to 60.
Stuart Broad stretching earlier in the over.
Yes, suspect he might be on for Curran at this end. Look, it was worth a go for a couple of overs to see if he got anything out of the wicket. Haven't seen Dominic Bess yet. I was a little bit surprised he didn't bowl an over before lunch, but then again we did have the slightly shortened first session with the rain coming in. By the way, now it's both rainy and sunny in Sydenham. Work that one out. Edged and gone. Hush our mouths. Sam Curran got a little bit of movement off the seam that time, a little bit shorter. Abid Ali edges to the slip cord and taken comfortably at second slip, I think it was. Abid Ali, for once, doesn't convert a 50-plus score to 100. Pakistan 102 for 3. Second slip catch for Rory Burns at second slip. Abid Ali goes for a well-made, if slightly streaky, 60 off 111 with 7 fours. And Rory Burns making a relatively simple catch. Looked relatively simple.
How do you play that? I mean, that was just a length ball that really zipped off the pitch and climbed and carried through to second slip. No problem at all. I just do not know where that one's come from. It hit the seam, of course it did, but I think 300's a good score. I think 300's a good score.
Might be right. Possibly it won't get any easier to bat on as we go through the test match. A bold but probably correct decision to bat first, as it was in the first test match. Jules.
So Finlo Peish is with us on YouTube. He says, "Hi Gorillas, why not bat under lights to avoid lost time, or is that too heretic for test fans?"
Apparently yes, is the only answer I have to that.
Dan Norcross says they should switch the ball to a pink ball, which is what they use in floodlit tests, and they should carry on playing with a pink ball. I've got some sympathy with that, but I can also understand why batters wouldn't care for a change in colour of ball.
Out at number 5, Pakistan's slightly underwhelming but very classy player.
Heaven, I'm in heaven, and my heart beats so that I can hardly speak, and I seem to find the happiness I see when the next man is Asad Shafi.
Completely unplayable that delivery from
Really was. I'll
Sam
describe it
Curran.
more, and that's another absolute beauty from Sam Curran that has jagged away from Asad Shafiq, who poked at it but couldn't get near it. There is no run. I don't know what sort of magic demon trampoline Sam Curran has found in the middle of this wicket, but he's found something. The ball that got Abid Ali started on leg stump and then jagged away to just outside off stump, forcing him to play. Really, you just have to hope you miss those, and Abid Ali could not miss it. Asad Shafiq has sort of come to that after this ball from Curran, which Asad defends with no real certainty to backward point. There is no run. Stuart Broad might just have to cool his jets a little bit, because Sam Curran has made the breakthrough from nowhere, as he so often does. Pakistan 102 for 3. Asad Shafiq, who that was one of the best number 6s that Test cricket has ever seen. If you look at the and you scored more hundreds than Sobers batting at 6 and averaged in the low 40s, but has, ever since he's had to move up to 4 and now 5, has just sort of coasted along as an average in the high 30s for 70 odd test matches in a row. A good player, but has never quite made that step up. I do like watching him bat though, and certainly with him and Barber at the crease, there could be some glorious stroke play to watch. What have we got on Twitter?
So Damon Lewis is also with us on YouTube. He says, "Greetings from Dublin, Ireland," and he's also said in Irish, "I'm not going to do this any justice, but we'll let you commentate on this ball."
In comes Anderson, 3 slips in place and beats Barber on the outside edge. That loose drive that Barber plays, not the weight, not into the stroke, which is unusual for Barber Azam playing the cover drive. Is beaten through to the keeper. There is no run.
So in Irish, it looks like Bia Aha Clear, but I could have that completely wrong and not done it justice with the Luton accent. So apologies to all our Irish listeners there.
Still basking in the glow of Sterling Balbirnie et al.
Yeah, that was the one where Babar Azam just goes with his hands there, and it was a smart bit of bowling from Anderson, first ball of the over.
Interesting, it is just the 3 slips and not the 4th or indeed the gully in place. More solidly defended by Barber, back up to mid-off, and there is no run. I suppose Barber Azam plays more of a sort of checked cover drive rather than throwing his hands at the ball as Kohli does, so maybe the ball wouldn't necessarily go through gully.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point.
Come on, get him out, says somebody on our crowd track, and some similar shouts of cricketing wisdom will be no doubt being bellowed at James Anderson in the slip cord in the back of the length, and Barber in behind this one and blocks back the bowler. There is no run.
Barber is looking with great suspicion at the pitch almost every delivery. He's going down and doing a bit of gardening, or he's glaring at the wicket. I don't think he thinks much of it, to be honest.
It's also just trying to slow Anderson down a little bit and slow England down a little bit, just making sure that he's in his bubble and the game is played at his pace. It's no bad thing when you're a batter and you're new to the crease, you've got a new partner. Bowling conditions are not ideal in that sense. There's not sort of dark clouds and the ball hooping everywhere, but it's not easy to bat out there right now. And Barber plays inside the line of this one, a little bit too short perhaps to take the edge from James Anderson, but it's another play and miss to put into Barber's mind, and goes through to the keeper. There is no run. That lovely wobble seam that James Anderson bowls, if he doesn't know which way the ball is going, certainly the batter doesn't.
You know, I played a few times where we've had sawdust, and you put the sawdust down, you know, when you run up. And then, of course, I would run up and completely miss the sawdust with every foot, with every stride. But that's the fate of the club cricketer, I think.
Anderson's stride pattern and run-up is so well grooved now. Back of length and edge through, well, not really a gully, really, a little bit wider than that, and would have bounced short of him. Ollie Pope races back from quite a fine backward point and does some decent fielding. They come through for 2. Barber moves edgily to 15.
I mean, was that an opportunity if they'd had a man in there? They've got 3 slips. England are very much on top here. Should they have had another man in there?
It would have bounced some way short of gully.
Yeah, it probably would have been short of gully, but...
And wide of gully.
Maybe
actually.
not that short of gully, to be honest.
Wide of him as well, I think. It went almost through backward point.
Yeah.
Interesting. Last ball of the over from Anderson. Oh, and Barber thinks about square cutting the ears off this, but then pulls out of the stroke. He might have been better advised if he was going to play at it to really play at it. In the end, he poked at it and is beaten. There is no runner.
Yeah.
Good probing probing over from the old master James Anderson.
Barber's just got to get some clarity of his mind here. He doesn't know whether to attack or defend. He doesn't know which shot to play to each ball. I think he's just got to think, I'll give the bowlers the next 30 minutes and I'll just knock it back in the V. And if runs come, runs come. But his thinking is not as clear as it should be for a batsman at the moment.
I think that's certainly true. And as far as Anderson goes, you don't get 592 Test wickets by accident. Tweets.
So Nestlers is with us. Hi Nestlers. He's just filled in my GC bingo card with, I think 300 is a good score on this pitch. I'd like to know what else is on that bingo card. Leah has said Asad Shafiq is a bit shit, I think. The Pakistani Jason Roy essentially makes a gorgeous 30 and then gets out of nowhere.
Asad Shafiq is in a slightly odd position as a Test cricketer, as I was just explaining. That's back of a length, and Asad turns this into the onside, fielded by Pope at mid-wicket. There is no run. He exists in that bubble of not quite being a very good player, but also not being an average player, and he's existed in that bubble for about 5 years.
I think it was quite hard when he was batting behind the likes of Yunus Khan and Mohammad Yusuf, I think, at the start of his career.
He was superb at 6, batting behind Misbah and Yunus at 4
and Misbah,
5. As Curran is in, and Asad Shafiq defends from the crease. It's most of the middle of the bat on it, fielded by Crawley at cover. There is no run, and he did really well there. And everyone thought, as we were talking about with Faisal Shah in the innings break, the Pakistan commentator and journalist, that everyone thought Asad would make that step up as he came higher up the order when Misbah and Yunus retired in 2017, but he hasn't quite. He's averaging 38.9 from 76 Test matches with 1200s, which is good and fine, but it's not. He just never has quite stepped up as one might have hoped. The full delivery on the pads, and Asad turns this to square leg, or mid-wicket rather, and there is no run.
I'd just be looking at that leading edge here from Asad Shafiq. He's got his bottom hand getting very dominant here, pushing the ball from off stump into the leg side. I want a little short extra cover in for Asad.
Yeah, he plays from the crease. He can be a little bit susceptible to the ball coming back into him at times. Back of a length, and Asad looking for a quick single, which is right, but Crawley in quickly from cover. There is no run. Asad not fazed by the fact that he was run out in rather silly fashion in the second Test match.
Brendan Stanton is with us on Twitter. He said made it to Gothenburg and he's having a quiet pint while listening to Gorillas, and the pint looks bloody lovely, I have to say. Josie Oki is with us and he said, I say it's higher than that. A good start in the first innings, and I'd say 20%.
In comes Curran, foolish on middle stump. Nicely played by Asad Shafiq, defends solidly up to mid-off, and there is no run.
A pint in Gothenburg is an investment, I promise you that.
Probably better than the interest rates we've got here at the moment.
An investment, what, like fine art?
Vinno Payesh has come back on, just on the subject of having lights in a Test match. He said pink balls are very tough if you're colourblind.
Back of a length, and defended solidly off middle stump by Asad Shafiq. Back to the bowler, there is no run. He's yet to score off 8 balls. Babar is 15 off 31 balls. Pakistan 104 for 3 after 40 overs. Yes, that's true, and I think that's why Chris Rogers has brought his retirement forward, because he can't see the pink ball so easily.
Love Chris Rogers, such a nice guy. Apparently 1 in 10 men are colourblind, which is
really?
Quite the stat.
That's a lot higher than I would have thought it was. As we see Jofra Archer doodling on his hand.
A friend of mine was colourblind, and I think we once tried to play the game Risk or something, where you move pieces over a map.
Oh, yeah.
And he just went straight from kind of desert to forest to woodland or something, because all the brown and green looked exactly the same. We're going, aye, you can't move 2 squares there, and all of that.
Well, it is going to be a
terribly
change.
funny. For those of you, of course, watching in black and white, the yellow is behind the green.
Yes, indeed. It was, of course, snooker that brought colour TV to the UK. We do have a change of bowling. It is Stuart Broad, but it's not for Sam Curran.
Sweep the leg, Broady. Got the best headband around. Something has gotta keep her down. Got the best headband around. Your ego ain't gonna be kept down.
Switching to the hotel end after bowling from the pavilion end for all of today. This is full outside off stump and punched by Barber. Doesn't really time it, and Anderson can do some good work at mid-on to field. There is no run. Perhaps Broad is going to be bowling.
He'll like that, will Jimmy Anderson, on the highlights, because he was picked out in the last test at Manchester for his fielding. But that was an 18-year-old would have been pleased with that. Never mind a 38-year-old.
Jimmy Anderson is a superb athlete and fielder.
Yeah, he looked his full years though in the last test, and I think it was Mike Atherton who pointed that out. So he'll be very pleased with that, Anderson.
In comes Broad, left alone outside off stump. Good lead from Babar Azam. Picked the line early and recognised that it wasn't going to come back into him. Left on length, I think, as well. Taken by Joss Butler. There is no run. Good zip and carry, though, from Stuart Broad. I think this will be a very interesting test pitch and could lead to a very interesting test match.
Yeah, I think England are on top here. We've had a number of dot balls. Assad's not off the mark after facing 8. And Babar Azam's played as many shots as he might play to get a 50, but somehow he's only on 15 after 33.
3 slips.
And England have got a chance here. This next 10 minutes, England have definitely got a chance.
3 slips, backward point, cover, mid-off, mid-on, mid-wicket and long leg. Barber stretches outside off stump and then leaves, breaking his wrists to flamboyantly swish the bat inside the line of the ball through to the keeper. There is no run.
I mean, he's talking himself into a nervous condition looking at this pitch, Babar Azam. And the England players must be absolutely delighted because he's showing such anxiety about the wicket. Viv Richards never did this.
In comes Broad to Barber, who is feeling the need to battle out there. I thought that had taken the edge, but that's just an absolute beauty from Stuart Broad. Angling in from that slightly wider the crease angle that he has, and then jagging away, a little bit of swing exacerbated by a little bit of late seam movement. And credit Babar Azam, that's a good play and miss, as it were. He didn't follow the ball with his hands, allowed himself to be beaten outside off stump, and Butler takes on the second bounce, but that is borderline unplayable from Stuart Broad.
Yeah, this pitch is going to provide us with a lot of fun.
See if Barber can put that play and miss out of his mind. Sort of. That was a delivery to score off, but if anything, Barber walked across to off stump too much and got himself out of line, and therefore wasn't able to take advantage of the ball angled down the leg side. Butler has to plunge to his left to take. There is no run. It's a ball that Babar Azam would expect to be getting 4 off 7 times out of 10, perhaps.
Yeah, I think the ball 2 deliveries earlier rather stopped him from being as positive as he would like to have been to that one.
Brought us actually good over to Babar Azam here, but he slightly ruins it on that occasion. That is easy for Barber to clip off his pads. They should get 2 out to Chris Wokes at long leg. They do indeed. Barber moves to 17. Asad Shafiq still yet to score. Pakistan 106 for 3. Plenty happening.
So Kashif Ali is with us on YouTube and said, who are they two? So, if we're talking about the cricket, you've got Babar Azam batting and Asad Shafiq, or you've got Broad and Curran bowling for England. Finlay Page has come back in terms of the colourblind stats. It's all about stats today, isn't it? From where I've started listening, I'm loving it as a scorer. So Finlay Page has just said he's checked in, and 1 in 12 men and 1 in 200 women are colourblind. And him and his pal Richard are listening in from Ghana. Well, they've run out of IPA. It's not a bad thing. So they're drinking Fox Lager from Denmark. Very nice. And the colourblind debate is actually going on to our Twitter sphere as well. So we'll come to that in a second.
Sammy Curran continuing this successful spell, bowling to Asad Shafiq, yet to get off the mark after 8 deliveries. He will get off the mark now as this one's back of a length, and Asad sort of flails it through where a backward short leg would have been, and they come through for a single. In fact, no, it might have been off the... No, it is off the glove, and so Asad Shafiq is off the mark. He's on 1. Babar now to face up to Sam Curran.
Just getting a little overexcited, Curran and Broad going for the ball that pitches leg and hits off, where should really be just trying to keep it in these corridors of uncertainty, because there's plenty of room in them at the moment. I did jump a bit again though from Curran, didn't
he's
he?
trying to... getting something, some life out of the middle of this pitch. That's 2 leg sidey, and Babar can clip this very fine. Again, they should get 2 on this big Aegeus Bowl playing surface. Broad lopes around from long leg to field, and Babar comes through for 2. A few play and misses, but he's still looking much more fluent than any other Pakistan batter has managed.
Yeah, just think with Curran, just that top of off stump or just outside, there's so much variation, both in terms of bounce, pace off the pitch, ball seaming away or holding its line. It doesn't need to do anything clever here. Just top of off stump or just outside, and there'll be reward for him.
Babar batting just a smidge outside of his crease, a bouncer from Sam Curran, which is a little bit odd, and it's telegraphed, and Babar Azam can duck under it comfortably, taken by Butler above his head. There is no run. Do you not think, though, left arm over the wicket, you do need to often pitch the ball on leg, perhaps even outside, to be hitting the top of it?
You do sometimes. It depends, of course, how far you pitch it up, and what I am asking a lot of Curran, but there's a kind of almost like a kind of box that you get in baseball that's sort of around halfway up off stump to just outside. You should be aiming at that.
That's on middle stump. It did swing a little bit, but perhaps started a little bit too straight, and Babar has not missed out on anything that's been on his pads in this briefish innings. He clips it down to Broad at long leg, moves to 20.
I mean, Babar looks a much more secure player when he can play compactly off his legs, where he doesn't have to do too much in terms of moving his front foot out to the pitch of the ball or moving his hands to it. It's once that ball is on a 5th stump line, he starts to be much less sure of himself, and that's where I'm suggesting Curran should be going. Instead, he's targeting sort of middle and leg at the moment in this over.
That is again leg sidey and clipped very fine. Asad doesn't time this very well. It might even have been leg buys because it's going so slowly. The ball's almost stopped by the time Butler catches up with it, and they come through for 3 somethings. We'll wait. Well, we won't see the umpire signal because we're focused on Joss Butler's base. Indeed, it is leg buys. Off the thigh pad, otherwise Butler wouldn't have been able to catch up with it no matter how quick he is. Yeah, it's odd because Babar does cover drive beautifully off both front and back foot, but perhaps just put it away for the next 20 minutes.
Well, he's certainly his whole sort of body language and his whole glaring at the pitch suggests that he's not going to cover drive you.
Last ball of Sam Curran's 10th over, the 42nd of the innings, and that was an invitation to cover drive. Babar leaves it through to the keeper. There is no run. Leaving them outside off stump and playing them when the bowler strays straight is not a bad game plan and has worked for very many players. Pakistan 113 for 3.
Anna Forsyth has picked up on the colourblind debate and said, so is a pink ball that much harder to see than a red if you're colourblind? I wouldn't have thought that, and Buck Rogers saw the red ball well enough when he hit 240 to turn over those pesky Yorkies. And yes, I wanted an excuse to tweet that.
Absolutely.
Lee has come back in and said there are no squares or types of terrain in Risk, Gary.
Oh, it was whatever it was. I can't remember it exactly. I do apologise.
Josie Oki has said Archer seems to be writing left-handed but bowls right, and so there I was has said nothing like getting Test cricket at 6 a.m. to make the rainy day entertaining here in the States. So good to have you with us. So there I was.
Yeah, lovely to have you wherever you are listening from in the world. 3 slips in the gully, backward point. Sorry, 3 slips, no gully. Backward point, cover mid on, mid wicket, and long leg for Stuart Broad to Asad Shafiq, who's on 1 of 10, yet to look particularly comfortable. Broad is in. That's a good shot though from Asad Shafiq. On middle and off stump really, but it's very full, a half volley, and Asad turns this very pleasantly indeed through mid wicket for 4 runs.
The number of the day. Who could ask for more? The number of the day is 4.
It's a game of patience for both batter and bowler on this pitch.
Yeah, we saw the current over, which culminated in Abid Ali's dismissal, and it really showed just what good touch Abid Ali must have been in just to make contact with the ball, because the previous 4 or 5 deliveries were pitched in more or less the same spot. And then there was the wicket-taking delivery, which was about a foot higher and went a foot wider than the previous deliveries. So he did well to get an edge through to the keeper, and you've just got to hope you miss them, like you said, Knuckle.
In comes Broad to Asad. Lovely square drive, but straight to backward point, and there is no run. Asad not putting the drive away. To be fair, if you drive squarer and you're sort of playing with the swing, the risk isn't quite so high. If anything, it's one of those. If anything, he's almost hit it too well, Clive.
Yeah, I mean, that was where he did well there, Asad Shafiq, is that he steered that, I think, rather than drove it. If you drive and the ball's going to carry to slip and you're hitting it outside your eye line, you can steer much more safely than drive.
Not quite as full edged and I think it has carried to Dom Sibley at third slip. That was a very good delivery from Stuart Broad on the perfect length, dragging Asad Shafiq forward. Little hint of late movement away. Asad Shafiq just propping forward, and the edge is taken low by Dom Sibley at third slip. Pakistan lose another. They lose their 4th. They're 117 for 4. England into the middle order.
There used to be expressions for silent movies where you would get a name would come up, or an emotion would come up with on the screen, and then you would get the emotion from the actor, which, because it was silent movie, they were always exaggerated. Well, if the word came up relief, then that's what Dominic Sibley was showing there when he hung on to that one. Just if they show a replay, just catch Sibley's face when he clings onto this. Having dropped one early on, he is very, very relieved to hold on to that one.
You could almost see it in the long shot, a sort of blowing out of the cheeks of.
Yeah.
And that's why I thought it bounced short, because there was no celebration. It's hard to attach too much blame to Asad Shafiq for that dismissal, really.
No, not at all. I think he had to play it. He didn't do much wrong. It's just, if the ball is jagging about like this and you're up against smart operators who know where to pitch the ball, which is on that 4th stump line, then there's not much you can do about it. You really can't.
Well, after 88 test matches and nearly 11 years and the thick end of 12,000 first-class runs, this man gets to play his 4th test.
It may have been 10 years since he last played in a test. Maybe they didn't pick him 'cause he just needed a rest. You could have watched all a Game of Thrones and gone on your own quest while you're waiting for Tariq's son Fawad.
Beautiful work from Billy Peel. Yeah, Fawad Alam, the great forgotten man, no longer for Pakistan. He's to the middle in Test cricket. The last man to dismiss him in Test cricket was Shane Bond. Fawad with his Chandrapal-like setup at the crease as his back of a length and fenced by Fawad into the offside. There is no run. He sets up even more front on than Chandrapal does. He's actually his feet and his chest are facing the bowler as he comes in, and then he gets himself into a perfectly decent side-on position.
It's a shame he wasn't playing at Old Trafford, because in one ball he's telling the history of the last 10 years of the Old Trafford Square.
Extraordinary setup that Fawad has got. Mind you, it didn't hurt Shivnarine Chandrapal, did it? And it's got him 12,000 first-class runs. Fawad leaves outside off stump as it dives through the bottom. There is no run. Broad, of course, going around the wicket to the left-hander.
Kim Barnett as well, of course, used to set up like this, and there's been a few others. Peter Willey was didn't move quite so much, but he was very two-eyed in his stance.
Fawad Alam has the 6th highest first-class average since he last played a test, 56.48, just shy of 8,000 first-class runs actually in the 111 first-class games he's played since last playing a test match. Faces up to Broad, who beats him with a nigh-on unplayable delivery from round the wicket, angling in from round the wicket and then leaving Fawad at the last minute, just holding its line. Fawad has done very well to miss that. To be fair, he would have done even better to hit it. Really quite remarkably good over from Stuart Broad, and Pakistan 117 for 4. We will have a change. Tony Bishop is going to come in, Dave Brooke is going to come in, and Bear's going to replace me in just a couple of minutes.
Well, I was just going to say I'm due next on Monday, but it'll have to rain quite a lot, I suspect, if I'm going to be back on Monday. But till then, Gorillas.
Thank you, Gary. Thank you, Knuckle. Well, welcome back, Fawad Alam. Fantastic first-class figures. He's been in some nick, you know. He made 43 and 24 for Team White against Team Green for the sort of intra-squad games in Derby, and in first-class cricket in Karachi, he's got 116 and 211 to his name recently. Though you wouldn't know it with that first ball, although, as Knuckle said, David, it was damn near unplayable.
To step up in class, Tony. I say this to you every time we watch Middlesex.
You say this every time I commentate with you. You go, it's a step up in class for you, Tony. Modestly, as ever. We're going to play a jingle for the new man, Chris Wokes. Probably after his first delivery, which he's bowling to Babar Azam. 3 slips are ready. Moves away, jags away, not taken cleanly by the diving Butler. Oh dear. Didn't cost any runs though, so Bessie Jez doesn't have to put it onto his the debit column for Joss, but it was a messy old take, David, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, absolutely. I'm just thinking about what you said, Tony. In all seriousness, that's a fantastic first-class record. You know, someone that's just come off the back of a double ton in the century.
Well, other scores, 107, 65, 211, 116. Wokes is in.
I mean,
left.
He's obviously had to work his way back by sheer force of runs, because we all know how cliquey these selection committees are. You know, they're very ageist. Once you get past a certain age, it's quite tough to get back into an international side. Have you noticed that?
61, I've found, has been about my limit. I think I can honestly say now my England chance has gone, Dave. 117 for 4. You never know, though.
Afternoon, boys.
Is that the Bear?
It is.
It's the Bear.
Hello, Bear.
How are you all?
In comes Wokes, cut. And,
all the better for seeing you, Bear.
Oh, thanks, Dave. I had a nice kit.
Sorry, boys. Sorry, the cricket's rather introducing than getting in the way of the niceties there. I'll try and get it over with quickly. I thought he was trying to cut that square, and he ended up sort of bumbling its way to mid-off somehow.
If you're stopping the niceties, Tony, that means you must be responsible for the nasties.
I don't know. I was called soporific earlier, which I really don't know how to take. Wokes in. Worked nicely off his hip. Past square leg. They're going to take 1. They'll definitely come back for 2. They might even think about 3. They do.
They said the same to Richard Burton, Tony. They said,
did they? When he was sober?
You'll never make it as an actor. You're too soporific.
What was the film he did where he was absolutely pissed as a fart for most of it, and it came. Was it Where Eagles Dare or something like that?
You auditioned for that one, Bear, didn't you?
What, Where Eagles
You'd
Dare?
have been tailor-made for that part.
I used to love that film when I was a kid.
Yeah. It might not be that one. It might have been another film.
Really
I seem to remember it was in that one. He could barely get his words out. Anyway, that's all but something of a digression. 120 for 4. That's what matters right now. Where England would like to have been, well, obviously probably not the 120, but where they probably went off for lunch thinking they could have been in terms of wickets down. They've had to wait. Perhaps the interruptions of the weather, Bear, have worked against Pakistan's concentration, though England have bowled very well.
They have bowled very well, and it's been quite advantageous conditions, really, hasn't it? The ball's been doing stuff.
Wokes in. Oh, it really comes across a big shout. And a thoughtful, pensive moment from the umpire, I think. Well, there's going to be a discussion between Root, the slip, Cordon. You've got me saying it now. And Root has reviewed. Clearly, he and Wokes having a look. For my money,
well,
a little bit high, but be interesting to hear what you chaps say.
Well, I don't think it's high. I think possibly pitching outside leg, but could be marginal. It wasn't even out there.
That was definitely out. Was that definitely out? I don't know.
I don't. Oh, well, it caught him.
Struck him pretty low.
The question is, was it in line?
Caught him on the. Well, it got in behind the pad, but of his sort of bending left leg, as it were. He does crab his way across the crease, doesn't he? Which really does bring LBW into play. We're going to have another look.
Oh, it's in line.
Certainly in line.
Out.
Hitting.
Yeah. It's out.
He's gone.
He's gone.
He has gone.
I didn't see that.
Oh, well, you wait 10 years for a go and then just snatched away.
11. It was 11. 11 years.
I could always come back in another 11 years' time. Always look on the bright side.
That's true. I think he's already earmarking August 2030 for another crack.
Well, that's another bet in the Bears' bag, I have to say. Boom.
Is it?
Yeah.
You had him for a.
No, I had under. I'm trying to get the run on the
under
unders.
one.
No, under the fall of the next wicket I had, and I'm going again.
I mean, if I can just say something fair.
Yep.
I actually was really sorry that Shadab Khan wasn't playing this match because he looks a fantastic player. I think they should really persevere with Shadab Khan. He's a great 7 or 8. He's a really talented leg spinner. He's got a fantastic attitude. I mean, it was him that lifted the tempo and got Pakistan's innings moving in the first innings of the first test.
Yeah.
And I think to throw him out after one match.
Well, I think they thought. Well, he didn't bowl enough overs, did he? And when he did bowl, he got a couple of wickets late on in England's innings. But then in the second innings, it was pretty ineffectual, and that was quite easy to score off. And I think they think, well, we got Yasir Shah. I mean, Yasir Shah, as a test leggy, is fantastic. You don't necessarily need two. So.
Well, another perfect example of the value of Chris Wokes in English conditions with a bit of help. And it's going to be the Pakistan wicketkeeper Mohammad Rizwan comes to the crease. Shall we jingle him while he goes through limberings?
He bats and he keeps, and that's what the deal is, because he's Mohammad Rizwan.
I think
he is Mohammad Rizwan.
He did. I think the umpire thought that pitched outside leg, like me. And I'm glad to see it didn't.
No, it was another terrific ball. Delight for Wokes. Delight for that whole England group. Clearly enjoyed that. They probably feel, David, that they're cashing in now on cheques they wrote before lunch. and are slightly deserving of those wickets. 120 for 5, you'd definitely say that puts England in a very strong position at the moment as Wokes rolls in. 4 slips are ready, and that one comes back into the right-hander. It's worked onto the leg side. There's no run.
Just to extend your financial metaphor, Tony, they've made a sort of down payment, and now they're doing their HP on it, whilst picking up loyalty points at the same time.
Cashing in.
That's really stretching a metaphor about as far as you can take it, I think, Dave. But I'll take your
Sports Tiger. Can I just go? I know we're on Sports Tiger, new partnership
We
in
are.
India.
Yes.
Hello to all the people listening on Sports Tiger. They've made the same point. Fawad Alam comes out to bat in a test match after around 3,911 days. It's been goodbye, Fawad Alam. See you in another. Well, he's got some. After that, another 3,911
Probably a fair
days.
point. Stuart Broad, anyway, comes back into the attack. Headband in place. Bit inside edgy from Babar Azam. It sort of bumbles its way down to short fine leg. He will get himself a single. So bringing the new man on to strike, Mohamed Rizwan. Just the one ball faced for him.
They're showing us bloody people hanging around a goddamn hovercraft.
Every time I come on, I'm like a wet blanket.
It's like you
I'm
and
doing
Tone.
your roles,
You and
Tony,
Tone are like
today.
rain magnets.
No, I don't
man.
mean that. I mean, when the rain comes, I come on, and the groundsmen immediately leap to their feet.
Exactly. You two need. You know what you two need to do? Piss off, and then we'll all be fine.
Piss off and it won't piss down.
Yeah,
Is that your message, Bear?
That's what I'm saying, boys.
That's
Hardly
what
a
you're saying.
motivating rallying cry,
No,
Bear.
that's what you want from your
Not
management,
even
isn't it?
motivating the troops, not piss off.
All right.
Oh,
They
of course
will
I don't
double
mean
my
it.
salary though, so that's got to be good news. As 4 slips go down, oh, and again that's very inside edgy from Rizwan, and that 100% is not where he was looking for that to go, which was essentially square leg off an inside edge. He's got away with it.
He
Didn't allow Bear to do one of those celery deals with you, did he? Just for celery.
Well, double my
Not
salary of
salary.
0.
Hold on, boys. Look at that. His feet went nowhere. Then he literally his front foot went about 5 inches, and then he just went at the ball with a bat. I mean, Rizwan, everyone says has got a good rep and scored runs, but he doesn't look set up to score runs in England to me.
Just average of 29.
I know, but
Broad is in. That one he meets beautifully and on drives it down the ground. I think that's going to go. It's a big old boundary there. No, it won't go all the way. It is hauled up by Jimmy Anderson, who might like to think it's not my job these days to be thundering after balls to the boundary. Who do you think I am, Ben Stokes? But he seems to be doing it willingly enough. He's got more of a chirpy demeanour about him now.
He's been fielding well all day. He did an incredible diving stop. About half an hour ago.
But don't you have days, David? Some days you just go, fuck it, I just don't even want to get out of bed, and just everything doesn't quite go right. I mean, he just had one of those, didn't he? Or he had a couple of those. It happens to everybody. Left, that withdrawn inside a probing ball outside the off stump.
I call it a bad hair day.
I used to call it that when I had hair that could be bad on any given day. Yes, I know what you mean. Yeah, I know precisely what you mean.
As we said earlier, way too much of that was made of that, I thought. I mean, Jesus.
I'm not getting in there with you. Somehow I came across like I was completely endorsing the fact that Jimmy Anderson had played absolute pants, which are precisely not what I was saying. I was merely saying he's judged more harshly. And that one leaps and invades Babar Azam, I think, was attempting to get out of the way. So from one that kept sort of fairly low and sort of went, almost grabbed an inside edge, that one leapt off a length. Maybe just short of a length.
I mean,
And he
these
had a good
are
old fish, didn't he, Babar Azam?
steepling leg cutters from Broady.
No,
I mean, this is Broad at his best. He's done this too many times for it to be an accident. It's brilliant bowling.
It was.
He's been unlucky, hasn't he?
It
He's
was.
not. He's not. I didn't realise he had. Does everyone have their initials on their arms, sleeve arm of their?
I wonder if he's got to deal with his dad to get his money back, as this one dropped down. Where's it actually gone? Actually, it was pretty well played, to be fair, by Rizwan. He stood tall, played it down into the ground, and it was away to mid-on.
Apparently his dad's already backtracking, so he doesn't need to wash his car now for him this weekend.
Send him to buy the paper every morning for the next week, or whatever it takes. Now, the umpires, they're having a chat. I can lip read. It's something along the lines of, well, look, Dave's doing tweets. Tony's on ball by ball. It is going to rain. Let's just fuck off and call it an early evening, shall we? And I'm pretty much sure that is what's about to happen.
Well, they're telling them they need to be ready, but they don't seem to be going off. And I'd be saying, well, look,
There were spots on the camera, Bear.
Yeah, but there's no
there.
visible rain yet.
Wokes is going to continue. That's beautifully flicked off his legs, but only for a single into the leg side. So 125 for 5.
There's a lot to like about Rizwan and his whole attitude to batting and wicket keeping. What a great addition he is to the Pakistan side. I'm not missing Sarfraz at all.
No, there we go. It's a little bit heavier than I thought.
Yeah, well, I would
might-
imagine if
well, that
you're
might be
5 down
outside
for
the ground, they're
125 and England's attack is hooping the ball around corners and getting it to jag off the seam, I'll hold that thought. And again moves off the seam, big high lift of the bat to let it past by Babar Azam. You'd happily go off and go, let's see what the weather's like tomorrow. We're looking at the floodlights and there is definitely a fair amount of rain there. I am very surprised that the umpires are not taking them off.
Well,
If you
it
look at the
seems to me-
floodlights and you can see
I
a
know,
considerable amount of drizzle, I
but
mean, in a
we-
one-day game or T20, you might go, well, let's carry on, lads. But very rarely in Test cricket. In comes Wokes. Horrible ball down leg side, steered down to long leg, and will just get a single.
Seem to see that one okay, Tony, and you got bloody great floodlights on. I mean, a lot of the public can't understand when people come off a bad light these days, you know, because you've got huge floodlights, but it's a bit of a sore point. Got some great tweets when you got a second.
Fantastic. We'll squeeze them in between balls, David, just after this one. As Wokes is in. Eats the outside edge, little fishy waggle from Rizwan, but it's through to Butler. David.
Well, I don't know whether you had this one from Neymar Butlins about Babar Azam. He said, if I was called Babar Azam, I would write 5 rockabilly songs just using my name all the way through. Babar Azam, Babar Azam, Babar Azam, Babar Azam. I like that. Anna Forsyth, Ye of Middlesex stock.
They are coming
Where
off, by the way.
Eagles Dare is a brilliant film and a triumph of sideburns. Now, Bear, a man can tell us a thing or two about sideburns. Bear.
What do you mean? I've got a full beard.
Yeah.
I like
you're about to
sideburns.
say
I
something
like
about
facial hair.
something then, Bear. You picked up the
Look,
microphone
just
purposely.
while we do,
No.
let's confirm rain has stopped play. The players are leaving the field. Jimmy Anderson, for the record, has the ball in his hand, even though he's not bowling at the moment, and has a big old happy grin on his face. Well, big and happy as it ever gets with Jimmy, which is never much beyond a sort of a wry smile, is it?
Messi Jez has asked for the Fawad jingle to be played again, even though he's out, because it's such a great jingle.
I'm sure we could oblige. We may well be
Any chance of a repeat
doing
of
some
that?
filling.
Yeah,
Bert,
we can.
can you oblige on that one?
I can.
Anyone else got a favourite jingle? This is your chance, guys. Get
Here we
the
go.
tweets in, or hot mic it in, or sports tiger it in.
Here's his new jingle.
It may have been 10 years since he last played in a test. Maybe they didn't pick him, cause he just needed a rest. You could have watched all a Game of Thrones and gone on your own quest while you're waiting for Tariq's son Fawad.
Do we know who that is? Who's the songwriter there?
It's got to be
Bert?
Billy Bragg, isn't it?
Oh, it was a Billy Bragg
Yeah,
adaptation.
great
But which
use of a
jingle?
Billy
Oh, that's
Bragg.
Peel. That's
We
got
had
to be Peel.
a tweet earlier from
Richard Peel. Thank you.
someone who very kindly attributed that to Billy Bragg. I think it could have been Messi Jez. But just on other tweets.
Can I just play his old one? 'Cause I want to
Rain.
remember what because that was quite good as well. Hold on a minute.
Fawad Alam, if I'm not too harsh, completely clear, but a fake moustache.
That was his old one. I thought it was.
Oh, that was his old one. Just imagine what a difference 11 years make, and that's the point that Sports Tiger, our new partners, say LBW Fawad Alam's first innings in 11 years lasted just 4 balls. 11. Can you imagine that? 11 years you wait, and it's all over in 4 balls. Yeah, as ever, Hendo, aka Gorilla Hendo, has summed it up beautifully. Absolutely gutted for Fawad Alam. He tweets, "Cricket proving yet again that she is the cruelest of cruel mistresses." Tony.
Yes, indeed. I go along with that. By the way, on Hot Mic, there was a request for you, Bear.
I've seen that.
L wants to hear the Broadwalk jingle, please. Seeing as we're doing jingle requests. Oh, here it is.
If his stumps were knocked down, what would make Broadwalk? Caught 5 feet off the ground, what would make Broadwalk? If he trod on his stumps, what would make Broadwalk? If God was one of the arms, what would make Broadwalk? Broadwalk.
What broad?
or if his dad told him to, probably.
I suppose Paul Sterling jingle would be out of the question. Would it?
Yes, yes. I saw a lovely interview, by the way, with Paul Sterling the other night. What a lovely fella he is. He was talking about his early experiences with Ireland, where basically the first 2 days were rained off and they spent most of it in the pub. And he said, if this is international cricket, it's definitely for me.
Well,
it was absolutely charming company. It was such an enjoyable interview.
It depends which Sterling one you want. This is the one that I've not heard Richard Peel's one. There's Richard Peel's one goes like this.
'Cause you make me feel, yeah, you make me feel, champion like Paul Sterling.
I've never heard that one before.
For the very first time.
Genius.
Paul
Sterling.
There's a new Sterling. And of course we have the epic that was made especially for Malahide by Mervyn Withen. It's basically, obviously the original is just
He's Gorilla, yeah?
Sterling.
of course. So of course Mervyn Withen, being a genius he is, worked up this. This at the time, this was the massive hit, wasn't it?
This is Malahide. Don't you be getting out. He won't be getting out. Who am I talking about? Paul Sterling. He backs so pretty, yeah? He's Gorilla, yeah? Ladies and gentlemen, I give to you the greatest living Irishman.
I tell you something. I think we're going to pick up some of that BBC Radio 6 audience with this sort of stuff.
Well, exactly.
Looks
Yeah, this is
morphed
excellent.
into Bubba O'Reilly, doesn't it? Rather brilliantly there.
Well, exactly.
Fantastic
It starts with This Is America and ends up with Paul O'Reilly. Apparently, he got a request to do that by someone, and he did that. Now, Llewellyn Kay was requested a Brian Close jingle. Now, we didn't do Brian Close, but I'm sure we can give you an old timer. Who was an old timer that had a good jingle?
Well, just while you think about that, let me convey one piece of information. A message from the green room. I don't claim its ownership. But apparently, Fawad Alam's previous test, all those years ago, when Sam Curran was not even a glint in his father's eye, his previous test was the official launch of DRS. So now, 11 years later, and 4 balls, he gets to actually sawn off by it, which is a bit tough. But there you go. His last test was the launch of DRS that got him today.
There you go. Right, the jingle requests are flooding in. I'm pleased
Okay.
to say, from Anthony Abdul. He'd like to hear
Anthony Abdul, say hello to him from me while I'm here. Hello,
yes.
Anthony. Hello, mate.
Hello, Anthony, from Tony and everyone here at Gorilla. He says, I like the 4 jingle that uses For All the Saints. Short and very sweet. That's the 4 jingle For All the Saints, Bear. If we can cue that one up, please.
Okay, that's it. That's easy. Here we go.
Yeah, and Muttley says, just wrap this one up there as well. If we're taking requests, can we have the Ravi Bopara jingle? I knew that would come up.
Ravi Bopara,
Ah,
genius.
well, he was he was in a side down here, wasn't he? What side was he in?
We will have used him recently
Yes.
because we did him for the stuff we did with the cricketer,
Exactly.
didn't we?
Here-
When he was
here it
playing
comes.
Here we go.
Sussex or Essex. Can't
Here
remember.
it comes, the jingle for All the Saints.
He's a batter, like Ian Bell, but delicate. Ravi Bopara, he's a batter, like Owe Shah, but a little bit better. Ravi Bopara, he's a batter and a useful medium pace bowler to have in a limited overs game.
I'm just riffing now.
Tumbling down. You'll feel the stand start to trembling when 20 level rock goes down.
The Bears back spinning the decks in the Hacienda again in his mind.
I wish I had been. I'd have paid lots of money if I'd have been spinning the decks instead of being spammed on stage.
You were going to look for the 4 jingle. Did you find it?
I did. I played it.
I missed that.
Can we have it again, Bear?
Yeah, play it again. I never even heard it.
It's For All the Saints. It
Over
gets,
here
played,
in
it gets
Cleagate.
played quite a lot anyway. It's quite sweet.
Come on then. Yes.
Right, Paul Kemp has requested Michael Clark, Luke Wright.
Luke right through me.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on.
A shout out, please, for Michael Clark and Luke Wright.
Oh, Michael Clark is a classic. Well, it's quite long.
Well, that's all right. I think
No
you'll find
matter,
we
we
have
like
time
it
there.
long. Yeah.
Is it this one? I think it's this one. No, it's not that one. Fuck off. It must be this one then. Yeah.
Used to live in Bondi in a flat pan steak old bonds. I heard his ex Laura Bingo was prone to a bungle, but now he's not so silly. He lives in a lily pilly, and now I have been told he has married Kylie Boldy. Michael Clark, Michael Clark, Michael Clark, Michael Clark. Sing the song, Michael Clark, Michael Clark. Sing the song when I say Michael Clark. Sing the song when I say not before. Michael Clark, sing the song when I say. Sing the song, Michael Clark, not before. Not before, Michael Clark, sing the song.
And he's batting
Sing the
with.
song when I say Michael Clark.
I am a cricket ball, and I would like to sing you a song. By my head I want to drown my sorrow. Look right through me, look right through me.
We've had a request on Hot Mic
Oh yeah.
for this man. We should play Guess Who. No, they all have names in, but some are a bit obscure. But anyway,
I think
this
we
one.
know who this is.
Oh well, I'm the type of guy who will never settle down. Where pretty girls are, well, you know that I'm around. I kiss a man, I love 'em, 'cause to me they're all the same.
Shane Warne.
I get so gosh darn hammered, I don't even know their names. 'Cause I'm a philanderer, yes, a philanderer. I sleep around.
Big
That
Burn.
Vernon
Who
Philander
else?
bit.
That's Vernon Philander, obviously.
Can I just put in a couple just to start looking for these, Beck? I know some of them are in our other library facility. Leo Wicket Witch says the one for getting hit in the bollocks, please.
Is that the one with Anna Forsyth bizarrely doing the voiceover?
Yeah, where was that? I don't know where that was, Knackle.
Okay. And Nestle says simply, Bear, come on, Bear, you know which jingle to play.
Tyrone Kane?
Nestle
Kane
says
forever.
you know which jingle to play, Bear.
Right.
Oh, I know.
okay.
Dame Pete, I suspect, is what he's thinking.
And we've had
Well,
another
Dame,
request
Dame
for
Pete
that
with
one
the
as well.
auto-tune is an absolute classic. Well, you know.
Of its genre, which is a limited genre of just the one. But yes, it is a good one.
I've been asked to do a mashup of Oh You To The Window, right, so what's that? Oh You To, that's out. This is getting silly now. Look,
We should
people-
go back to talk about the cricket.
well, no, that's fine. But if you want us to keep doing this, I think you should Patreon us $10. You know, and if you do,
Well,
by
let's
the way,
trial the concept
and if you
now.
do, no.
Yeah,
I'm
actually,
just having a
you're right.
laugh anyway.
Yeah,
if you do, you get one of these T-shirts.
Right. From now on, any jingle requests must be accompanied by a modest or otherwise Patreon donation. Okay, no matter how big or small, it all helps to oil the facilities.
Is a £10 Patreon commitment, though, Bear, gets you access to the Jingle library, doesn't it? Have I got that right?
Not at the moment, it doesn't. No, that's a
Right, it
separate
will do.
facility.
You
but
wait.
it gets you a
It'll
T-shirt,
do.
Tone. It gets you a T-shirt.
Can I just put through some of these free-to-air requests first? You just got under the wire before the drawbridge came down, so you get these for free. Tim Bresnan is Nestle's request, and Mark Zip says, and this is for anyone who needs a quick bathroom break. Mark Zip recommends the Ian Bell jingle. You know the one. Ideal for a bathroom break.
I refuse to play that fucking Bell jingle.
Ian Bell, by the way, is the record run scorer on this ground.
Oh, thank you.
Just to drag things back to reality for a moment.
Okay, I wonder how
Top
many
run
of those
scorer
were
at
in
the
a-
Rose
I
Bowl.
wonder how many
Okay,
of those
right.
were in
I found the
pressure
mashup that's
situation.
required.
Will says request for the Trot jingle, please.
Oh, that's another classic. These are all
Jonathan
classics.
Trot. It's a classic. You guys are coming up with all the classics.
It's because they don't get to hear them very often anymore. So this is a mashup that was required. Well, look, we got some tips. So we're going to play some jingles. Right. This one is going in with this one.
Jingling balls, tingling balls, been hit in the groin. No one showing sympathy for my tender loin.
There you go, Warren.
Yeah,
that's for
that's
you.
mashup.
That's a mashup. Did that
Do
work?
you have
for
access to
Tippers?
Tyrone Kane, by the way?
Tyrone Kane, yeah, of course we do. Everything's
Yeah,
here.
let's just drag out Tyrone
Whilst
Kane.
you're looking for that,
Memories of Ireland. It was fabulous.
Hold on, what am I
whilst
looking
you're looking
for?
for that one, Bear, Muttley has a question for you, Bear. Am I right in thinking, and Tony, you may be able to shed some light on this,
I'll do my
there
best.
was the jingle based on the Grand Old Duke of York?
Oh, there was.
There was.
Can't remember who it was.
Messages, no messing about. The full length Samit Patel one, please. Not the short one.
Okay.
Full length version.
Oh, damn it, Samit.
Messages, and what Messages says goes.
Right.
Which one
here
in
we
which
go.
order?
Who's paid for what? Well, Messi Jez, actually, he's put in some cash.
Okay.
El's tipped, he got his 2 in anyway. So you can tip on Hot Mic too. It's fucking genius. Come on, people, sign up. So I've got to pay.
Be having you.
I've got to play Samit. He was in the Fat Boys 11, wasn't he?
He was.
Fat Boys. Samit. Full length. Here you go, Messers.
Hey, Summit.
Yes, Dad.
I've got something to say.
Uh-huh.
I really love the skillful way you beat the other players to the lunch buffet.
Oh, Dad. Oh, Dad.
For the first time this series, you ran it. The cheese board's now ours, so let's scram it. But please don't take pomegranate. I've one thing to say, and that's damn it, Samit. There's Irish stew. Your belly's no longer like granite. The corset's not working, let's can it. Your moves are approaching Titanic. I've one thing to say, and that's damn it, Samit. There's birth on croup. Andy Flower thinks that you're a joker. And you need to share the stone or 2. But your diet plan is mediocre. So SAMIT, let's try a poo. Oh, this jingle's nicer than Ravi Bopoha.
Oh, Dad.
Now I'm full up and I'm so glad that I could kick you in the gonads.
Oh, Dad.
Warren's in on the tip. He's tipped for his request. Thank you very much, Warren. Have we got any more requests?
Yeah, plenty more. Yeah, Fuku Life says, can we have? He's put in a request for 2. He wants a double ration. Fuku Life, you just didn't get under the wire, I'm afraid. So I'm afraid that's going to have to be the full $10 donation. Tim Bresnan and Ian Bell, great choices. Fuku.
I'll tell you what. I will play the
choices.
full 2 minutes of someone going Bell or whatever it is.
Yeah.
If you donate $10.
Yeah.
Because I'm not
Christ the
planning
Choir
that.
also has put in a request there for ball tampering Bancroft.
Oh.
And as a special bonus, he's prepared to chuck in a couple if you do Trent Bolt as well there.
Okie dokie. Well, let's have Tyrone Kane first, and then I shall find them. Who was that? Sorry, that was
Tyrone Kane was me.
Tyrone Kane was you. Yeah, we'll have a bit of that because he's quite good. It's a genius jingle.
Yeah, maybe I'll see you do some bowling. Yeah, maybe it's a one-day game. Yes, I want to see you batting, 'cause you're Tyrone King.
Tyrone King.
Tyrone King. Tyrone King.
Get your lighters out.
Tyrone King.
Right, so what would they're going to be paid for. One was Ian Bell. I've got to find Ian Bell. Hopefully I've deleted it. I want that out.
Yeah, that was with Fuku Life. Don't forget Tim Bresnan. was also very much
Bresnan's
part
a
of
good
this
one.
request.
Oh, what have I done there? Maybe that's maybe a better view.
Yeah, Bear's Disco Jingles are a great fundraiser. Do you know, I think we've just stumbled across a really good way of getting people to donate here. It'd be like, you know, the what were they called, Duckworth Lewis project. This is these Mark and Jeff Perkins are on the same level of quality as Daryl Hannah.
Absolutely. Sorry, my short-term memory is quite short.
While you're thinking, Bear,
Tim Bresnan and Ian Bell.
We should just tell people before you do that the rain has stopped and they're beginning to take the covers off. And Not for Titmus has asked Daryl Hannah. Yes, I wondered why Daryl Hannah popped into the conversation.
I didn't. Did I say Daryl Hannah?
You did, which gives us a bit of a worrying insight into what's actually going on in your mind, David. Because I don't think
Neil Hannah. I actually intended to say Neil Hannah.
You were thinking about in what was the film when she was a mermaid?
I just couldn't get that mermaid out of my mind. Yeah, I was just thinking. There we were. I was watching the rain, and all I could think of was Splash.
Daryl Hannah.
Splash. Daryl Hannah. And we've had. Oh, Bear, did you manage to find the Tim Bresnan?
Yeah, I got that.
And Ian Bell. Let's put those up now because Tim Bresnan's back in form for Warwickshire.
I'm refusing to play Bell unless someone sends some fucking money in because I hate that jingle. And I'm in charge.
He goes a new batter. He used to be fat. He's from Pontefract. He's never too flashy because Wicket was gnashing. He's got more moustache. He loves to relax and his son is called Max. So that's some facts about President. He bowls and he bats and he used to be fat and he's from Pontefract. He's also moved back. And he used to be fat and he used to be fat and he's from Pontefract. He's never too flash. His first wicket was
2 minutes and 25. I'm not playing full of it.
Sounded quite quiet, that one, Bear.
Yeah, well, actually, you know what? I've figured out I can do all sorts of things in here now.
The thing is, our jingle machine is like the equivalent of my Spotify played through my speakers at home. You never know what volume the stuff's going to come out at.
Well, yeah, but you can.
I mean, some of the great historic moments in sport, I think, are captured on this one. Ball tampering Bancroft. Did you manage to find that one, Bear?
Hold on. I'm just going to do something. Boom. And we select.
Not forgetting the New Zealand paceman Trent Bolt.
Of course, Trent Bolt.
Is that when his mouth is really small?
Yeah.
How does he shout? How does he call?
How does he shout? How does he call? Trent Bolt's mouth is
really small.
Normalise.
Poor chap. It's a very fine bowler, I think we should also say.
Indeed. Let's shut that down. Who am I looking for again?
You were looking for either Trent Bolt,
Cameron Bancroft.
Ball tampering Bancroft.
Ball tampering Bancroft is always a delight. If you play the whole thing, which is about as
2
long
minutes
as Bohemian
16, the whole thing.
Yeah, send us a couple of more minutes to send us your requests for jingles,
or else we'll have to talk about cricket.
And
once an easy captain was facing heavy defeat under the cloud of a stairwell affair. And he sang as he watched and waited till AB declared, "You'll come ball tampering Bancroft with me. Ball tampering Bancroft, ball tampering Bancroft. You'll come ball tampering Bancroft with me." And he sang as he watched and waited till AB declared, "You'll come ball tampering Bancroft with me." Down came a dump fuck with tape and some grains of sand, hoping to off. I said, you come ball tampering bankrupt with me. Ball tampering bankrupt, ball tampering bankrupt. You come ball tampering bankrupt with me. And he sang as he watched and waited till I be declared. You come ball tampering bankrupt with me.
William Francis says, in response to the previous one, oh yes, Tyrone Kane, my favourite. William, that's cost you $2.99. You have to make a donation on Patreon now you've told us that.
Or PayPal.
Jeff Perkins, I'm happy to say, Bear, has requested my own Walking Talking Josh Hazelwood, which obviously is a Jeff Perkins creation based on soundtrack.
It was you, wasn't it, David? Yeah, you were the voice of the Walking Talking Josh Hazelwood.
And whilst you're lining that one, Gits and Gratz says, love the Summit jingle. And I get the true reference, but seeing David Brooks there, it also reminds me of the Monty Python, every sperm is sacred type absurdity. Brilliant, says Gits and Gratz. Thank you, Gits and Gratz.
Indeed, right, so we have we have this.
He's a walking, talking Josh Hazelwood. Walking, talking Josh Hazelwood. Walking, talking Josh Hazelwood. He's a walking, talking Josh Hazelwood.
And here's Trotty. And then, we got any other requests?
They have. Brendan McCullum, please, from Andrew Jones.
In or out, though?
I can call you Straussy, Straussy when you call me, you can call me.
I remember going to see Paul Simon with Ladysmith Black Mambazo backing him. I think it was at the National Arena in Birmingham when he did the Graceland tour. Absolutely fabulous live. Oh, he's still going. Sorry, I beg his pardon. I didn't hear it on my.
McCullum. How do you spell McCullum?
Brendan McCullum.
Brendan.
Yeah, Brendan McCullum.
Oh, there we go. Would you want the thing is,
McCullum.
Do you want him in or out? That's the question.
Well, all Andrew Jones says is Brendan McCullum, please.
All right, let's.
Very polite, but quite concise.
Well, let's give him out.
Okay.
Oops.
Waving him goodbye, I think, from memory.
Exactly.
Something along those lines.
Brendan McCullum, he don't like to run him, just smashes him into the crowd. The way that he bats and his collection of tats that should not be allowed. Nobody looked any finer. He gives all the Kiwis a cute angina when he's caught on the boundary, stupidly chasing a wide. Whoa, and they're left waving Brendan McCullum goodbye. Whoa, whoa.
We have some genius jingles, that has to be said.
That is genius. What was that line? The way that he bats. What was it?
Well, I'll play it again. The way that he bats is nobody finer or something. Let's have a go.
Brendan McCullum, he don't like to run him, just smashes him into the crowd. The way that he bats and his collection of tats that should not be allowed.
Yeah, and his collection of what? His collection of tats.
Oh, right.
The way that he bats and his collection of tats. It's got to be one of the best lines from any.
Exactly. We got some genius jingles,
jingle.
man.
I've always had a soft spot for Colin de Grandhomme.
Ah, of course.
With the
comfortably Mutt is still reminding you about the Ian Bell jingle. I know we've had some problem locating that. We suspect sabotage. We suspect that some anti-Ian Bell types have been in and taken this one. Because it's the only one that we can't find, so I find that quite suspicious.
No way to treat South the
well, we got.
I'm
going to play all the Bell jingles we have. Unfortunately, I think I had such hatred for that jingle that I never unloaded the jingle. But I'll play you all the other jingles we have for Ian Bell.
Okay,
before you do that, just a quick reminder that they've gone off for rain. It's still very dark. The umpires, I don't think it's actually raining now, but it looks gloomy as hell. So we'll give you an update as soon as we have it. Pakistan were 126 for 5.
I'll give you
back to the music.
A montage of Ian Bell.
Ian Bell, here we come, Mutley. Well, thanks for your patience. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Mark Zip, thank you very much, Mark Zip. He says, check your PayPal, Bear, for Dane Pitt and Ian Bell. Thank you very much, Mark Zip, for that.
Well, we haven't had Dane Pete, so I better stick that on, eh?
Oh, so we haven't had Dane Pete. Right, here we go. Dane Pete coming up for you.
I presume you want the classic.
The classic one, yeah. Was that a Dane Pete classic? Yeah, one Dane Pete classic, please, Bear.
Okay. The better of them
classic.
all.
It's our best seller.
Oh, for fuck's sake, it's not working.
You don't hear that on Virgin FM, do you?
There we go. This one. This. Man, you can't beat this. Endo's about having a fit in his lounge now.
Tweaking, but I can't even read them. Don't fold because it hurts.
Man, that was genius.
If you say so.
I can see why the Dane Pete requests were piling in tonight. And Hombre Nuevo says, sorry, I missed most of the jingle request. Hombre Nuevo, there's no need to apologise. He says that if you haven't played yet, can we have Cornwall's Wall Jingle, please? Presumably that is Rakeem Cornwall, the Wall Jingle, Bear?
Yes.
From the recent West Indies series, the West Indies off-spinner of the same aforementioned name.
Yes.
Whom has played for Thames Ditton?
Who has?
Remember? Oh yeah, round the corner from me.
Went to the West Indies test. He got in there, didn't he? Rakeem Cornwall.
Hey, Batsman, leave those flippers alone. All in all, it's just another off break from Cornwall. All in all, it's just another off break from Cornwall.
Diana Patterson says, I think what a lot of us are thinking, which is wonderful to see people discover some of these jingles for the first time.
Absolutely.
Too bad we never had a jingle in the House of Nunhead. That's before my time.
Wow.
The House of Nunhead, Bear?
We had jingles in the House of Nunhead.
Oh,
they got more sophisticated as time went on. Basically, when Dan was in charge of jingles, they were fucking awful.
The Hound of Nunhead, was that a pub, Bear?
The Hound of Nunhead was the dog that was across the road. It was this massive Alsatian that used to live across my flat. It's actually quite docile, but it was really hairy and huge and barked all the time.
Yeah,
hello.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Who are we talking about now, Bear, just out of interest?
Nunhead. No, the Hound of Nunhead.
I was thinking more of the hairy and farts all the time.
Right. Just to say thank you very much to everyone that's requested a jingle, and thank you for your kind donations. We'll make that an occasional feature. So
when the rain comes.
Yeah, when the rain comes.
Well, speaking of cricket, I mean, presumably they have to be out by the. Well, they've moved the close of play till 6:30, so I don't know whether they have to be out on the field by 6 or 6:30 now before officially they call it stumped.
Yeah, we're just looking for any clues, which doesn't seem to have be forthcoming as yet. The thing is, if it's like here, I mean, we had some of the loudest thunderclaps I think I've ever heard in my entire life. One of which I was just quietly reading on the bed between my commentary stints, and I literally probably hit the ceiling. It made me jump so much.
Shitting yourself.
Then it deluged, and now I'm looking at comparatively blue skies, or certainly enough blue between the clouds.
Yeah, we didn't get a deluge here. It rained reasonably hard. I did fall asleep whilst in that break.
But the other interesting thing was how varied it was. You know, I mean, none of us live miles apart. Well, okay, Annie's out in the middle of nowhere, but generally, you know, I was seeing messages from Essex going, "I wish it had rained here." Somebody in North London going, "We've just had it." Wimbledon, it was just passing through. Tooting was under a deluge. When Tooting was under a deluge, I was fine. So it's clearly passing through fairly quickly and leaving sunshine to come. So I think the difficult thing for the umpires at the moment is when do you call it? Because literally just around the corner might be some blue skies and playable conditions.
It does seem to be the problem.
The outfield, I suspect.
It does all seem to be coming up from the channel, doesn't it? And they're obviously closer to the channel. I think there's more down that way as it breaks and hits land, I imagine. So it looks pretty bloody dark there. It's not raining,
does.
but
I have to say, over the hotel, which is the view we currently have.
Yeah, I think I'm going to.
It looks very grey.
Yeah, I might just pop and see a man about
a
small dog, whilst the
not the Hound of Nunhead.
Yeah, whilst the weather is remaining this inclement.
Well, does someone want to? All those people in the waiting room I can see, Jules and
Are we due a change?
Hendo.
We were a while ago, actually. I think.
We were due a change a long time ago. I think.
Calling Jules and calling Hendo. I know Hendo is due back on, and many people set their watch by Hendo's rotors. So if you could appear, Hendo. And there is Jules.
And
hello,
Tony's
Jules. How are you?
Staying on.
Hello. I was enjoying the kind of DJ set that was going on.
Wasn't it amazing? You know, Duckworth Lewis project. Eat your heart out.
It was certainly something. I have to say, I was listening to it while watching videos of Chandapal, who is a phenomenal batter, having seen Fawad's batting a little while ago.
The thing is, it worked for Chandapal. It didn't work. Work for poor old Fawad.
Oh, Chandapal!
11 years. 11 years.
Well, Chandapal is a legend. I'm glad you said that, because not many people see him right up there with the greats. But you know, his record stands against anybody's.
Was it Lancashire? Did he come over and play for Lancashire, David? Was it Lancashire?
And Derbyshire, yeah.
And Derbyshire.
His
always made
whole attitude.
And Durham.
His whole attitude was to play all the time, because he reckoned as soon as he stopped, he would find it difficult to start again. And that was the secret behind his longevity. He never stopped. That's why he was so disappointed when he was left out of the one-day team after being made a scapegoat of West Indies World Cup performance.
Could he go up and down the gears enough for one-day cricket?
He could do that. He had a better strike rate than anyone else when he was dropped.
Wow, that's it. That is interesting.
But the reason
if you ask most people, they'd never think that, would they?
Well, no, they wouldn't. That was indeed, he was seen as obdurate and difficult to dislodge. But no, he could go up through the gears, particularly at his peak. But I blame Sarwan for the World Cup defeat. He was in the same team and didn't go into bat in the required position during the run chase because he was on the lavatory. Can you believe that a professional cricketer would do that? Bear. I don't know why I turned to you for that.
I'm off screen now.
I didn't want to put it to
What
Jules.
was the question?
Sometimes if you've got to go, you've got to go. Put it this way: would he have been better walking out, having not made the trip to the lavatory? You've got to think of, consequences.
He shouldn't have been. You should have sorted that out earlier. Far too late. Everyone knows when you're waiting to go into bat, that is not the time to go. It really isn't.
No, it's not. It's true. Oh, look. No, they're winding out. I thought they were winding them in.
They're covering up. Covers on the square are coming back on. This doesn't look good. Is a message
looks
from
extraordinarily
Knackle of the Green
dark
Room, who sounds like a knight. It is Knackle of the Green Room.
I don't know. Hendo's supposed to be joining us, isn't he?
Well, maybe he's just. It might be siesta time.
I'm going to exit. See you tomorrow, everyone. And don't stop tuning because Jules has just come on.
We should ask Jules about something. Jules, what would you like to talk about?
What's your specialist subject, Jules?
Oh gosh. I'll come back to you on that one.
Well, tell us how things are going with Cricket Without Boundaries and latest projects, and what have been some of the real challenges during these kind of crazy times?
Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay. So Cricket Without Boundaries, we are still functioning. It is very much of a reduced capacity. So the guys that deliver the coaching regularly out in countries, in Rwanda and Uganda, and Kenya have, I think they sort of locked down around about March, April time, and the schools have been out as well. I understand, I think Rwanda, the schools are starting to go back, but I'm not so sure that the coaching will start to happen at the moment. But what has been going on is sort of one-on-one coaching and adaptations that are happening with some of the coaches that are out there, which is pretty good. For our project in Jordan, so the delivery of the programme that we were doing with an organisation called Right to Play did actually come to an end in March. But we're just starting to do a new programme with them and managed to do one element of the training, and then COVID hit. So they're looking at doing online delivery courses, which will still involve a bit of cricket. So just working that through. I always find this fascinating that we've managed to get cricket on the Jordanian government's sort of national curriculum, and yet we struggle in a lot of other countries to get cricket on the curriculum. But that's what we have to go through in Jordan, which is pretty good. And then I think outside of that, there's been sort of pockets of cricket springing up. I think I just sort of want to sort of raise this. I mean, a lot of people have talked about the return back to cricket, particularly in the UK, which is all positive. But actually, the recreational game, it's meant that people have needed their own kit. To start off with, they've needed to be able to pay for like membership fees, and I do a lot of work with refugee kids and for them to play cricket. And I think my sort of half of June, July has been a case of sort of scrounging sort of kit from various wonderful organisations. So that the guys can still play cricket, and hats off to the Refugee Council for all the work that they do at the Refugee Cricket Project, because the lads are out there, they're back playing cricket, they're playing games, and it's an absolute lifeline for them. I think some of them are quite newly arrived in the country, and just the ability to play cricket, meet people has been phenomenal, and lockdown was a challenge to that.
Is that the project, the one down in Croydon?
Yeah, that's the one down in Croydon. And during the full-on lockdown, sessions were actually being run on Zoom. So we were talking about fielding positions and talking about tactical gameplay and sort of clearing everything sort of we can of sort of nearby rooms and sort of coaching bits. And basically they'd be sort of shadow batting in their sort of bedrooms, and we'd be sort of discussing how they're playing the shot and doing it that way. And I think just to have that connection has been sort of beneficial both ways actually. And we've been developing a little app which helps identify fielding positions. So it's been great seeing some of the guys now use it in the cricket games. They're absolutely, they understand what it means to be a bit squarer, a bit straighter, where this fielding position is. So yeah, it's really helped. So yeah, cool. It's been, there's things happening. I always think that in terms of the recreational game, lots of people sort of jump up and down and say, we need it back, and there needs to be X, Y, and Z, and people in the crowds, and this is not right, and this, that, and the other. I think everyone's got to remember there's money behind it, and you need to support the very much grassroots game. I think I've kind of gone a bit of a diatribe here, but I think there was a real interesting discussion. I think it may have been Nasser Hussain who raised it. He was talking about the game and actually, the amount of, and it's not like a bad thing, but public school cricketers playing for England, but actually where are the state school kids? And it is jolly difficult if you're in a state school, unless you get a scholarship, to actually have access to all that.
So is this all part of the work of Cricket Without Boundaries as well, Jules?
So some of it is actually just general only interest. So the Refugee Cricket Project is just something I got involved in off sort of my own back, and it's run by the Refugee Council, and then sort of during lockdown there's a little bit of interaction with some of the sort of main Cricket Without Boundaries coaches in terms of developing stuff.
If I may, as for people who have just joined us and might wonder what we're talking about, we are talking about the charity that Jules volunteers for. It is called Cricket Without Boundaries, and it works with partners around the world to grow the game of cricket, but using particularly sport as a platform for education on health and social change. Works in countries like Cameroon and Rwanda, and it brings together communities, promotes partnership, it promotes working together, it promotes leadership skills, it promotes female equality, and it really through the teaching and coaching of the game of cricket really impacts the way that the participants see and understand the world around them, and offers them, brings them sort of the additional confidence to achieve things within their own countries and their own communities. So it's a phenomenal charity in its own right. It survives, I think I'm right in saying, Jules, on the basis of its volunteers who raise money and then will be sent to those different countries as coaches and as project organisers, etc. Right? So that's what we've been discussing. If you think, what is Cricket Without Boundaries? If you want to know more about it, then you would go to, all one word, cricketwithoutboundaries.com, cricketwithoutboundaries.com, and that will give you a very good insight onto precisely, were you to be kind enough to donate to that charity, it'll tell you precisely where your money would go and why it's a good idea. Sorry, Jules.
No, thank you, Tony. I was about to get into a bit of a rant on access to cricket, so no, it's all good. And yeah, please do check us out on the Cricket Without Boundaries website and see what we're getting up to. We are putting blog posts out there in terms of the work that's been going on during lockdown, and also marking sort of key important days that have happened sort of during lockdown and the work that's been happening. So we did quite a lot of comms on World Refugee Day, for example. So please do check us out. If you want to donate, please do, but just get behind everything and what the team do.
Perfect. Well, shall we drag us back to today, Jules? What are your perceptions now? 5 wickets down, 126 on the board. More likely to be some more bad weather over the next couple of days. England fairly well on top, would you say?
Yeah, I would say for me, England are on top at the moment. I have a really horrible sneaking suspicion that this is actually just going to play out into a rain-affected draw, because we're just going to have those frustrations. Because bear in mind, we've got the thunder and lightning to come over the next few days, and all the regulations relating to thunder and lightning. I think it's just going to be a case of you get going. Looks really interesting, quite nicely poised. For example, today wickets were starting to go. You're thinking, oh, England can get on top here. The rain comes and that just breaks it up. So I think it's going to be one of those frustrating test matches.
Yeah, I fear you could be right. Nestlers said Jules is punk rock. Joe would be proud. Mean something to you? Joe Strummer?
Yeah, we've got a mutual love of the Clash, you see.
Oh, well, look, I got the right Joe then. Could have been Joe Brown and the Brothers, but I didn't think it was under the circumstances. Chris the quite a few. I don't know whose job it is to do tweets. I just thought it was time we had a few.
Yeah,
so I'll see what I can find. Messi Jazz, as ever, is sending us the rain radar. This was from 5:25. Weather coming from the southeast. Yes, it is. Let me see what else. I apologise if we've missed you.
We've got Mohsin here, so he's come in on the Chanderpool sort of discussion that we've had with Fawad as well. So Chanderpool also had a poor technique, averaging 56 in domestic. It clearly works for him. I think we just get so hung up on techniques. I know Jono in sort of the pseudo WhatsApp green room was getting a bit leery on Fawad Alam's technique. But you're just kind of thinking, well, actually, okay, it wasn't effective today, don't get me wrong. But I mean, for Chanderpool, it's one of the greatest test batsmen of all time.
And he got stitched, didn't he, as well? He should have overtaken Lara in that series and then got dropped when he was about 30 runs short of Lara's record. Yeah, it was criminal.
Chris the Choir has said, too early to mention it's very dark Jingle again. Sounds like a perfect time to play it. Well, yeah, it is actually, interestingly enough, that you should say that, Chris the Choir, because it is now rain. It is not rain, it is bad light rather than rain. That is stopping play. And if we're looking at live pictures, which I think we are, the covers are now off.
No, that's Old Trafford.
Oh, is it? Oh, so it is. I'm looking at the ground. Yes, good point.
They've
I
gone.
was going to say, where's the Rod Bransgrove Pavilion gone?
Exactly.
Where's the Hilton Hotel?
I was being optimistic
Well,
about
actually,
that
there is
about
a
5
Hilton
minutes
Old
ago. I
Trafford.
looked up and I thought, oh look, the covers are off, and then I realised.
Apart from
it
the
was
fact
Old
the ground, the stadium is completely different.
Yeah. Well, I think
Don't pull the wool over
I'm
our
a bit
eyes.
more optimistic. I think England have got themselves into a good old position here. I think Rizwan is a bit shaky. Everyone says he gets runs, but his technique is not suited to England. Is one way of putting it. I mean, he plays a long way from his pads. His feet don't go towards the ball, and I think he's a good candidate. You know, he might get 20s and 30s, but I don't think he's going to stay there all that long in England.
It's always hard to judge.
Well, yeah, but
intra-squad games, but he made 50 not out for at Derby.
Yeah, that's true, and and you know, he's facing bowlers that he would have known what they're doing and stuff, and this will be a whole. I mean, he's never probably. I don't know if he's faced Anderson, Broad, and Wokes before, but I can't remember him playing for. I mean, all I can remember is Sarfraz for the last few times that England have played Pakistan. So he won't have seen them a lot. Has he played county cricket here, Rizwan? Does he know England very well?
Not to my knowledge.
No.
I can tell you he's played for the Sydney Sixers. Not to mention the Suez Northern Gas Pipelines Limited.
Nice.
Amongst others.
And so he looks. And after that, you know, they got a long tail, as we suggested earlier. I mean, they're 126 for 5.
Yeah.
Get through these two in the next 10 runs, 130 off for 6. There's a good chance that the tail goes down and you get them all out. I mean, Yassir might have another swing, but say you get them all out for 170 early on before lunch tomorrow, if there's any play. I'm not into mine. Even with the time out of the game, you know, England don't. If England get 300, 350, they've got a chance of winning the game.
Well, you sense that a lot rides now on the shoulders of Babar Azam, who seems to be in pretty decent touch. 25 or 51 for him so far today. He's looked fairly solid, I think. He's a classy player. What's his top score in Test cricket, Babar Azam? 143 in test matches he's made. Averages 44 in 27 tests. That's
but I think over the last couple of years,
decent numbers.
I think
I mean, he needs to stay there to enable, you know, others to, you know, if they chip in with 10s and 20s and 30s, and he stays there and gets a decent total, then Pakistan will end up somewhere competitive. But I think if you lose him, then there is a risk of a low total and a collapse.
Yeah, indeed. Well, the green room says apparently call-off time is 7. We can play till 7:30 now. Theoretically, allegedly, optimistically. Well, if they can call off till 7, I'm sure there'll be a bit of light to them.
Well, I think there is a chance. Let me see. I'm just having a quick look on Crick Tracker for us, which, goodness me, seems to have an awful lot of people watching us, just generally chewing the fat and having a good time. Whilst there's no cricket, but we're thrilled.
Did they like our jingle into
Jawad Khan Marwat, hello to you. Mohammed Moen Ali, hello, welcome to you. Abid Belok, hello, and a very warm welcome to you as well. Delighted to have you all with us. Anyone on hot mic, Jules, we should be saying hi to?
Not that I can access or see, so...
No, at the moment, Dave B cracks me up. Was the last comment on that?
He cracks all of us up.
Oh, well, he does indeed.
Not always at the good right time.
No.
But you can guarantee him to do it at some point. Most definitely. And what about our new platform there? I must confess, even while I'm doing social media, I haven't yet.
Well,
I've not been all over that one.
Well, I've got the app myself.
Right.
Because they did the Vanuatu T10.
They did.
They did. I think I'm not sure they have comments on what they.
Well, if there's no comments, then
I don't think they do. No.
At least from the social media management point of view, it's easier.
Presumably there are YouTube comments because they're taking our YouTube feed. So.
Hold on one second. There were some people on YouTube. Yes. Goodness. Hang on one moment. Waleed Rahman says we're still in the game. Finio Paish says rain.
Yes, the English condition.
Kitty Eleanor Langan. Kitty Eleanor Langan. Hello, Kitty. Hi, guys. Lovely to see you all again. Lovely to see you, Kitty.
Indeed.
No doubt about that. Oh, and someone called Julia Farman's there. Damon, you are very kind. So someone called Damon must have been very kind somewhere on YouTube. What was that about, Jules?
My horrendous pronunciation of something in Irish.
Greetings from Dublin. Yes, Damon Lewis. Greetings from Dublin. So there have been plenty of people on YouTube, plenty of people on Hot Mic, and an extraordinary number of people with us on Cricket Tracker, despite the total absence at the moment of any cricket at all. Just us.
They're just loving us. They're loving you, Tone. Loving Jules. Loving me.
At least I'm not soporific as
you were earlier.
I was this morning, apparently, according to Jeff
Quite
Perkins.
it'll be quite late in India as well, won't it? When
You can get those like hypnotism, for people who don't sleep well. If you go onto YouTube and just look at hypnosis or sleep music, you can find loads and loads and loads of things. Normally it's somebody just sort of rambling away about
conspiracy theories,
letting your weight go from your body. Just feel the relaxation. I feel like I probably should do one of those, just talking about cricket.
Could you do the shipping forecast?
Millions of hits.
21st, Gale Force 3, Dogger Bite.
Could be a money spinner, Tone.
I do wonder actually if we shouldn't, there might be something in it. If I could do like cricket commentary to sleep by.
Exactly.
As Boycott just steps forward and pushes this back to the bowler, there is no run. You are feeling sleepy.
You would be watching Boycott.
Well, precisely. My favourite Jeff Boycott quote, though. There was, love him or hate him, he does occasionally have a beautifully dry sense of humour. And wasn't it Jonathan Agnew? There was somebody asleep in the crowd. That's right. And Agnew said to Jeff Boycott, this is what he was commentating next to him, something along the lines of, "You must have put a few people to sleep in your time, Jeffrey." To which his reply was, I was still there when they woke up.
Of course.
I thought it was rather good.
Say that. Presumably he's self-isolating somewhere.
He might be, or he might just be people crossing the road to ignore him.
Well, yeah.
Who knows? No, I've got a secret software. Watching. I guess if you grew up watching him in his pomp, then all of those players you have a soft spot for. Those that you grew up watching, they may be flawed. As you have got older, you may see those flaws.
Well, I guess I grew up.
But you still always sort of, remember the good points of what you watched as a child. No doubt about that.
Well, yeah, I think I was kind of at the latter end of Boycott's career when he was being grumpy. And was coming towards the end of his career and probably wasn't that good. So I don't have great memories of Boycott apart from being a grumpy Yorkshireman. No. I mean, it's a harsh rap for Yorkshiremen. I've known many not grumpy Yorkshiremen, I might point out. Tim Bresnan, what a lovely man. Who?
Tim Bresnan.
Oh, Tim Bresnan, yeah, he's a nice man.
Absolutely delightful chap.
I think he responded when we sent him his jingle.
Did he? What did he say?
I think he loved it, if I remember rightly.
Oh, I do wonder if we should, one or two players we should just voluntarily send out jingles.
Well, I think we see if I can find the one we sent Swanee. Yeah, no, we sent Swanee the one. Get me on the telly, because he was being an arsehole at the time.
Oh, really? And did he not like it, or did you just ignore us?
I think he ignored us. It goes like this.
Let me on the telly! I want to be on the telly! Let me on the telly! I want to be on the telly! Let me on the telly! I'll be good on the telly. Let me on the telly. Graham Swan!
I think we needled him with that after he said some bullshit in the South Africa test. There was no response. Funnily enough.
Indeed. I'm just looking. Future news. I will be interviewing Richard Clark, who has written a fabulous book about his travails and life following Essex. So I shall be looking to do that in the forthcoming days. Other things apropos of books and literature. What else was I going to say? Ashley Gray and the Unforgiven. You may have spotted that's up there as a Wisdom Book of the Month. So he was on our show in the last test, and that's a book of huge interest, and I would commend to anyone. We seem to be getting a bit of a book club going, don't we, somehow?
Well, yeah, that's another good way of making money, isn't it? What? Look at Oprah.
Don't tell Hendo.
No. Well,
we're just getting him to say thank you rather than how much whenever he hears about someone donating.
Yeah.
Retrain him that the first thing to say is not
give me
how
the
much,
money.
But
how much?
Well, thank you very much. That's very kind of you.
Absolutely.
But there we go.
Should we
what
put
else
something
we got?
on? We haven't got much else to do. I think we talked.
Do we want to play
dry.
some highlights, or we just say chatting and chewing the fat, which is also equally good fun?
I don't know. Or what highlights we got? We can either do Dick Well Abroad, or we can put on an interview or something. I would have to go and have a look.
Interviews.
While you're doing that, I just wondered, there was something that came up earlier, just after tea. I think Leah raised it about the German women's cricket team. You'd be able to watch the game, I think, online. And some of the discussions were going on about some of the county not county championship, the Bob Willis Trophy matches being online, some being behind a paywall and things, some having some technical issues as well. So I don't know, I think it'd be quite interesting to have a little bit of a chat about that, because it's kind of changed the dynamic of how we're seeing cricket during this time.
You mean the streaming? You're talking about
streaming? Talking about streaming, but also the access to it and who is actually able to provide that access as well.
Well, most was it Cricket Badger doing a sort of a review of that? Aren't most of the counties providing it for free, or do you have to be a member? I thought. Well, I am a member of Middle. That's a very good question. I mean, I was watching the Middlesex game the other day.
I think some were going along the membership sort of. If you're a member, you can get it for free.
Yeah, maybe that
guess
was
it
it.
depends on the quality and how much you put into it. I mean, someone like Surrey's put 6 cameras in, and if they've got, a decent company to run it, and they've got a couple of cameramen there and all that kind of shit, that all has to be paid for. I mean, I met up with a guy who about 15, 16 months ago, he ended up being on a sort of Channel 4 commissioning board or whatever it was, and he was telling me how much trouble TV is. So he was saying the average hour of prime time telly, a production company will charge 180 grand to do it for an hour's worth of telly, right? And he's saying now, after shutdown happened, advertising revenue at Channel 4 dropped like over 100 million quid like overnight, and suddenly production companies now being offered 50-60 grand is all channels are prepared to offer for a prime time hour of telly, which is a drop of 60%.
Yeah,
which is quite crazy.
That's a lot. The other thing that struck me about those, and again, I can only speak for Middlesex. I think I don't know if it's a moan as such, but the company that is covering the Middlesex games, it's the fabulous Adam Collins and Izzy Westbury, who are terrific together. But it struck me as odd when you have already a commentator who's considered the voice of your county that they weren't part of it. So clearly it's different. Whilst the BBC commentator still continues doing output on the BBC. And I just wondered why somehow I would have put those two things together.
Well,
and had the voice, doing the visual output as well.
Well, yeah, but you kind of think the BBC might go, BBC can be quite odd.
Well, you need to. It's desperate times and different times means you have to operate with different rules. And this is why
that's the difference
so
between being a
enthusiastic about
state-funded
the Bob
broadcaster,
Willis Trophy generally, in that it was clearly conceived comparatively quickly the rule changes were thought about, but on the fly, and I think it's fabulous. You know, so there is an example of, you know, suddenly the hundreds had to be shelved. What a shame. The T20, you know, pushed back a bit, and all of a sudden, admittedly, sadly, without crowds in the ground, but we're getting proper cricket at the right time, of very high quality and covered, that people by and large can watch. I mean, these are all things we were craving, that we were worried weren't going to happen, and yet the force of circumstances has actually presented them back to us.
Well,
so sometimes you've got to look for positives in amongst the negatives, haven't you?
You have indeed.
100%.
And I also think that cricket was, you know, one of these sports where actually, you know, social distancing is quite easy. A lot of county grounds don't get filled, so you know, the players don't suffer for not playing in front of packed houses and all that kind of stuff. I mean, the way that cricket operates is such that there aren't always large crowds, and it doesn't take anything away from the cricket because they're used to it, and so in that sense it's just been as absorbing as it normally would be, just the crowd isn't there.
I think part of the issue was as well, Middlesex wanted sponsors for their stream, which would have ruled out the BBC commentators from doing it, and nobody can deny the counties the opportunity to try and, you know, maximise revenue.
No, absolutely not. I mean,
whilst we're chatting, let's also just tease you with a couple of things coming tomorrow. Aninja Dutta will be back with us, author, of course, of the history of Indian spin bowling, amongst others. In his current book, the title of which I'm ashamed to say, Aninja's escaped me.
It's an Indo anyway, isn't it?
But it's a bestseller on Amazon India. So if you look on the shelves of Amazon India, you'll pass Sachin Tendulkar, you'll pass VVS Laxman, you'll pass MS Dhoni on the way up, beating all of them with 5 stars, to our very own Aninja Dutta. Wizards, of course, was the name of the book about spin. I was thinking more of the very latest. Nakul, help me out. So yes, delighted that we have another best-selling author who is ahead of some of the current India greats, will be on the show with us. We also are working at the moment with Total Cricket Analysis, and they are doing a feature for us tomorrow, which we'll be talking about at the top of the show, around James Anderson. I think possibly prompted by the quite heated discussions we had this morning about one poor game for Jimmy, and all of a sudden everyone, you know, says he's cooked and it's time to go, and the undue pressure he had, and almost predictably he came roaring back with 2 wickets and bowled quite beautifully and seemed like a completely different proposition. So we wondered, what's he done differently? What have we seen that's put the spring back in his step, and what was he doing here that perhaps he hadn't been doing at Old Trafford? And we'll have a little feature on that tomorrow morning, courtesy of our friends at Total Cricket Analysis. So I think that might put a few of our discussions to bed there once and for all, and we can move on and hopefully just keep celebrating his wickets.
Well, indeed. Well, we could put on a podcast, or we could put on an interview. We've got plenty of stuff that we've played already. We can play again if you like.
What do you want? What do you suggest?
I was thinking about Deep Dasgupta on, actually. It's kind of timeless.
Deep Dasgupta?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a good interview.
It was a good interview. We'll give you a bit of that. And if anything changes, we'll be back. But we did see the umpires were standing outside. It didn't seem to be raining.
No, it's bad light. They are, but I think they are still off for bad light rather than rain, even at Southampton. Even though we were looking at Manchester, which completely. No, officially it's still delayed by rain. Let me see if the covers are back on. This was at 5:35. We're getting into call-off territory, but it hasn't yet been called. However, even the most optimistic amongst us might not be specially optimistic.
Well, if they
just
come
at the
out
moment,
up until 7 o'clock. Let me just open that up.
I would have a word with Sky as to why they insist on keep saying it's bad light that's stopping play. That's really rather confusing.
Well, because there didn't seem to be any rain when we were. Well, when they were standing out there. And it does still look a bit dark, but it did seem to be that the light was coming over.
Maybe they're both right. I mean, it was definitely delayed. Cricinfo are definitely correct that it was delayed by rain. It was raining when they went off. However, it may now be it's not raining, hence the fact they've had an inspection, but the light just isn't good enough to play because it is so broodingly gloomy.
Yeah.
But perhaps both are correct, really. Anyway, Deep Dasgupta.
Hold on.
Oh,
we're not there yet.
Oh, well, let me tell you then, just very quickly. A Ninja's latest book is called The Greatest Year. It's about the 1971 tours of the West Indies and England by India. 71, of course, being the year that India's first match and then first series against the West Indies anywhere, and first series win in England. That famous win at the Oval to win not only their first test in England, but their first series win in England. The amazing spin quartet and other associated tales brought to life by our very own Aninja, whose pronunciation of his name is Anindo. We found out last time, having been calling him the wrong name for weeks on end.
I'm ready to go. Right, here's an interview with Deep Dasgupta.
Fantastic.
As soon
See
as
you all
we
later.
know what's happening, we'll be back on to let you know. Okay.
Chairman Mao, Jamie Howe, Ho Chi Minh, Asif Din, Václav Havel, Graham Saville, No Surrender, Percy Fender, Guerrilla Cricket.
Good morning, good afternoon, good dawn, good dusk, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to Guerrilla Cricket. I'm Gorilla Hendo, Nigel Henderson, and our special guest today is a man who's played with and against some of the greatest names in the game. In an all too brief international career at the start of the century, he scored 100 against England in Mohali, opening for a team with a quite awesome middle order of Dravid, Tendulkar, Ganguly and Laxman. Wicketkeeper batsman, in 2005 he took over Bengal's captaincy in the Ranji Trophy, leading them to a runners-up position in successive seasons. Now a commentator who can be heard on the Hindi, Bengali and English language versions of the IPL. He's also a highly respected coach. Welcome to Guerrilla Cricket. Deep, it's great to have you with us. How are you?
Thank you so very much. It's an absolute pleasure to be here.
Good to have you. Now, you know, we're pretty frustrated over here about what's happening with our cricket season. We've had no cricket so far this summer. But in a nation like India, which is so cricket crazy, how on earth is the population coping? Or is cricket being put to the back of people's mind because of COVID?
Fair enough. But it's crazy here because this is usually would be your IPL season. I mean, it would be over by now. But would usually be IPL season, and this is the time of the year where nothing happens apart from IPL these 2 months. I mean, April, May, a bit of June at times. So yeah, I mean, a lot of highlights have been shown, and the numbers I gather for the highlights are pretty good as well. I mean, so people are still watching cricket even if it's hits. And there's been a lot of Insta lives and shows like that, recorded and all. So people are still a lot of people actually. Every time I speak to someone, they're like, okay, when are we seeing live cricket again? So people are actually waiting for live cricket to start.
But do we think that COVID has passed its peak, or is it still on the way up in India?
Unfortunately, I think it's on its way up as of now. I think the month of June is going to be very, very critical because the lockdown kind of opened the first week of June. So people are starting to go back to their workplaces and all. Expecting a little spike in the number of cases in this month, but hopefully by the end of this month or beginning of July, there'll be some flattening of that curve.
Right, but what are you hearing? I mean, you're close to the game, as we said, you're an IPL commentator. What are you hearing about the possibility of it being played at all this year? I understand Ganguly sent a letter to state associations yesterday talking about it might be played in empty stadiums. Is that realistic?
I think that is very realistic. If you look at the situation right now, I don't see crowd in the stadium for the next 8 months to a year now.
Right.
I think that's the new reality that we have to live with. Stadiums. So yeah, we can come up with options like ambience through the PA system or cutouts or Zooms or LCD TVs. but I don't see crowd at the stadium for a while now till we have vaccines and major part of the population is vaccinated. As far as the IPL is concerned, I think it's still a possibility because I remember way back in 2009-10, if I'm not wrong, there was an IPL which lasted for 36 odd days, 36 or 38, if I'm not wrong. So I think there can be a window created because already BCCI has cancelled the Sri Lanka and the Zimbabwe tour. So that opens up a window a little bit of a like September end-ish. Right now, October last week was still is rather. Is the World Cup still scheduled, right?
Yeah.
So you still have a window, even if the World Cup's not cancelled or postponed for that matter. You still might end up getting a window of a month or a little over a month.
What would you say? Would Indian fans like more to see an IPL without crowds, or India going and perhaps winning the World T20 in Australia? If you had to choose, I mean, often people say to us in England, would you rather win the World Cup or win the Ashes? What would people in India generally say about that?
So what would you say, the Ashes?
Well, we said the Ashes, but then we also wanted the World Cup, so it's kind of, you know, we sort of stood on the fence with that one, really, in the end. So after we'd won the World Cup, well, of course, when they suddenly thought, yeah, we want to win the Ashes as well.
Fair enough. But having said that, I guess if you can guarantee that India is going to win the World Cup, then I guess the World Cup. But I guess there are no guarantees that way. So IPL is something. Listen, IPL is a little more than cricket. It's just about cricket. It's cricketainment. It's an industry in itself. We tend to kind of look at sports from only a sports perspective, and I think that's a little myopic if you look at through the prism of only sports, because sports like EPL in England, I mean, or not just England, world over.
Yeah.
I mean, it's an industry in itself. So I think you've got to look at cricket and IPL as industries in itself because it has its own ecosystem. And I think, if you guarantee that that India is going to win the World Cup, then that World Cup. But otherwise, but having said that, you know what? I don't think that's the choice that one needs to make at this point in time. I think both of them, as of now, are still possible. If we can ride over this wave here in India, month of June, as I reckon, and most of the people I've spoken to reckon, if we can ride that wave and be all right by end of July, then maybe September end, October first week, you can have something, some cricket played here.
It's interesting you talk about it as being an industry. I mean, I understand that if it didn't go ahead, the IPL, the BCCI would lose something like $530 million in terms of revenue, and I mean that's a huge amount of money, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean it might be more than that. It might just be more than that because you add the sponsors, the central sponsors, you add obviously the rights money and all that. So I mean there are some numbers which are floating around to the tune of $1 billion actually.
Right. Okay.
In terms of rupees would be 7,000 crores or $1 billion. I don't know about the figures, but yeah, it's a huge amount there. But the other important thing is what people don't really realize is the other industries which are connected, the ecosystem that I was talking about. You have the hotel industry, the airline industry, the hospitality, and the events and everything else. So, I mean, it's a huge thing from that perspective. It's not just about the BCCI. It's about all the allied industries as well.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I suppose the other thought is that it might be moved to another country. I think I saw that being talked about yesterday, and of course there has been a precedent of that, hasn't there? Because we had, I think it was IPL 2 was in South Africa in 2009. How was that for Indian fans? Did it matter that they weren't going to the grounds or weren't be able to pack out the grounds? Is that something that really upsets them?
It does to a certain part of the population, but end of the day, I think IPL or T20 per se is also a very television friendly format. And I think I mean there is a huge population who love to watch it on television, T20s, because of the broadcasting quality, everything else which comes along with watching it on television or any other even digital platform and everything else. So yes, while you might want to actually go and experience that, because in itself it's a fantastic experience watching it live in a stadium, but you wouldn't mind watching it on television either if you have that chance.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Let's move on from the IPL a little bit and let's talk about you a bit more and your start in cricket. And I noticed on your website that you say you really had to work hard for your success. It's an interesting thing for English fans. We know what the general pathway is now to the England team, as it was, or even to one of the first-class counties. What is it like for a young Indian promising cricketer? How difficult is it for them to make their mark? And how difficult was it for you, really?
Well, I'll be honest. I've never been, and I don't think I've ever been the most talented individual in any playing 11 that I've played. So obviously I had to slog it a little more. So, but what I really tried to do was be the most hardworking in any team that I was part of, and because that's the only way I knew how to do it. The other thing you mentioned about the system, I think the good part about like England and like Australia, the system itself is very robust. You know, that's the reason you don't see big transition periods when a generation leaves and a new generation comes in, right? So that's one of the very, very important reasons why a country like India has maintained its position off and on top of the table. So I think from that perspective, so it's like a very filtered and robust system. On top of that, there are certain filters which come naturally for a country like India, a populated country like India with 1.3 billion. Obviously competition, because as far as sport is concerned, you know, out of 5 sports, it'll be 1, 2, 3, 4 would be cricket, and then maybe a tennis or a badminton or something else, right? So everyone wants to play for cricket for the country. So competition wise, yes, then obviously with competition comes a lot of things like selection, because it's a team sport as well, right? It's something that you have to be selected to play. So so that brings its own dynamics, you know, selection, selectors, things like that. So there are certain filters which are planned, and there are a lot of unplanned filters as well, which a country like India would understandably have, and they have it. So it is that way tough, because obviously you go through the age groups like 16, 19 and all that. Apart from that, you all a lot of these hurdles where, you know, selectors might not, a particular selector might not like you because you didn't say good morning to him. Right, you know, there are things, I mean, there are personal liking and dislikings as well, and so, you know, there are these hurdles that I guess almost every team sport might have. You know, the coach might not like you, or some selector might not like you, some administrator might not like you. So I guess it's that way it's tough, and predominantly because of the competition that we have.
Well, we always see that, you know, whenever we see pictures from Mumbai or somewhere like that, we see people on the Maiden, there are all these games going on. But how is it for someone who's playing in one of those games perhaps to actually force themselves forward, unless they perhaps go to the, is it as much as going to the right school or being involved with the right club? How difficult is it for someone, you know, at the lower strata of society to make their way? Is it very, very difficult, I imagine?
I don't think it's difficult in terms of your economic background, because I think one of the most equal playing field that you have would be the sport. You know, so I don't think economic background, socio-economic background, or any other for that matter, thing would matter that much. But, you know, like I said, the system is very nice in terms of you start off at a club level or academy that you practice. From the academies, I'm talking about specifically about Calcutta or Bengal here. So from academies, there's a lot of inter-academy tournaments. From there, you play Division 1 or Division 2 cricket. From there, you get selected to your age group cricket, which will represent your state. So under 16, 19. And then from there, there's an under 23. And then there's the senior first class cricket or senior state cricket. So I think that way it's very well structured. But yeah, the process can be tough. Like I said, depending, you've got to make some very, very important choices, as you mentioned, playing for the right academy, playing for the right clubs, making sure you bowl or you get to bat where you want to, or your strongest suits are. You need people to kind of look at you, because a lot of time what happens is they're good batsmen, but they never get the opportunity to bat in the top 3. Right. Hence, they don't get enough runs, and because of that, doesn't get noticed. So, you know, things like that keep happening all the time. But that's the reason I think, even though it's structured, but as an individual, you've got to be very, very smart in making those choices.
Well, going back to that time when you got forced your way into the test side, how was it for you to be opening the batting? You're a wicketkeeper, as we know, and opening the batting, and you've got that middle order lineup behind you. I mean, were you overawed in any way, or had you sort of had enough contact with them before to actually slip into that situation quite comfortably?
So interesting. This is pre-IPL period, right? So the difference between domestic cricket and international cricket is huge. We all know that, right? Irrespective of which country you're playing. But pre-IPL, the situation was a little different because obviously because of the national scheduling and stuff, most of these people would not get the time to play domestic cricket.
Right.
So before playing for the country, I had played maybe Srinath once, Zahir once, Ashish once, Anil once, Haji, everyone once maybe. Played against Sachin once, Rahul maybe a couple of times. But I mean now, because of IPL, you get a taste of international cricket even before you play international cricket. Right? So you know what it's like. But at that point in time, it was I was awestruck when I first got into that dressing room. I mean, you're looking at Sachin, Rahul, Saurav, because I had played a couple of games and had shared the dressing room, so I knew him a little better than the others.
Yeah.
But from that perspective, it was. But I think one of the things that I actually have to mention is we all know the names that you mentioned, Anil, Srinath, and obviously the top four batsmen in the middle order. They're all great batsmen, but what I think are they're better human beings than cricketers. You know, so I mean, I had some awesome time with them. They were very, very accepting of any newcomers, not just me. Very open about it. They were very adjusting as well. So I think I didn't have too much of a problem. Yes, initially the first couple of days, it's like, oh my God, it's Sachin there and it's Saurav there and all that. But yeah, after a couple of days, because one of the first, I think it was the first day, we landed in South Africa, and one of the first things that happened to me was Srinath said, what are you doing for dinner? Let's go out for dinner. So Anil, Srinath, we all went out for dinner. Right. And yeah, I mean, that was an icebreaker of sorts, and it was brilliant after that.
I suppose you have to have a sort of a deep inner confidence. Is that something you would say you had, even if you think to yourself, I'm not the most talented individual, and I'm with these incredibly talented individuals, but you've got to have a sort of deep well of confidence, really.
Yeah, I actually did. I actually did. I think one of the most important things, which I'm sure you heard before as well, I mean, to sustain yourself or stay there for longer periods at international cricket, yes, your talent is important, but how strong you are mentally, I think that makes a huge difference. One of the things I think I didn't cope up really well with was the criticism. That's something that, a lot of people are not kind of to, criticism or being told or whatever. So I think those things you learn, and but the confidence part, as you mentioned, I mean, obviously once you're there in that dressing room, and what helps is, I mean, my first test I got 30 odd runs, right, and straight away that gave you that confidence,
right?
That what, it's all right. And the first over or so, it was like, oh, you're playing Sean Pollock. I was like, oh my God, what's going to happen? Whether I can survive or not. And then you survive the first over, then you say, you know what, I think I can survive. And then you score a few runs, then you start thinking, you know what, I think I can score runs as well. So I think that happens step by to a certain extent.
Is it the first thing of actually just feeling the ball in the middle of the bat? Is that the thing that suddenly gives you that bit of confidence?
Yeah, I remember my first scoring shot was a cracker of an on drive to Mackay and TV. And I'll be very honest, I was, it was a good length ball, and Mackay Nitini's action was coming back into you, right? I was actually trying to protect my jewels, but I couldn't believe myself how well I timed that shot. I was like, oh my God, that was a good shot.
It's interesting. Actually, it's interesting. I mean, I've played at a much lower level, but there are a couple of times you can think back into your playing life, and you've no idea how you played the great shot that you played. It's kind of nice to hear that comes in at the top level as well. It's just something clicks.
I mean, that was my first scoring shot in international cricket. I was like, wow. And honest to God, I mean, it was one of the best shots I've played at that level. So, and so yeah, I mean, that kind of gives you confidence as well that you can score runs. So yeah, so step by step, I went up there. Yeah.
Let's talk about then the match against England in Mohali, and you got your 100 there. What do you remember in particular about that game?
I think I remember the test match before that, which was the second one of the South Africa series. I played a really good knock. I mean, we had to bat through the last day of the test match to save the test match. which Rahul and I batted through almost the whole day, and we saved that test match. So I think I was carrying that that confidence into that test match. Secondly, also, at times you're in a zone where nothing else matters. So I was kind of, those 3-4 months I was in that zone where, I was like in a trance kind of a thing. I was just going through the motion and not really thinking too much. One of the things that Rahul told me while we were in the previous test match was, take one ball at a time, 1 over at a time, just try and play out a session. And that's all I actually tried to do during that first test at Mohali. Mohali back then was spicier, the pitch there.
Right.
All I tried to do was just take 1 over at a time, then maybe half a session, like go till the drinks, then from drinks to the end of the session. And if you look at the number of balls I played, I think I played the whole day, maybe more than a day. So I wasn't too worried about scoring runs. I was like, I just want the batters need to be out here.
What do you feel? For those of us who haven't got to experience this amazing feeling, getting to 3 figures in a test match, and quite early in your test career, and obviously we didn't know how long that was going to go on, but what was that feeling like, getting those 3 figures?
Oh, that was phenomenal, actually. Phenomenal in the sense you have that sense of belonging, because any team that you enter, one of the first things that you want is the acceptance and acknowledgement from your peers, right? Yeah. And obviously I got a lot of that from the previous innings that I played, but once you get that 100, that's like if you're playing in a team as a batsman, wicket keeper, that's one of the boxes that you want to tick as a batsman, getting 100. So I think that was a huge thing, and also getting 100. Not too many wicketkeepers have done that for India in Test match cricket. So then you start, all my life what I did was as I mentioned, I would take 1 step at a time. So when I was first picked for the zone, I started thinking, I'm one of the top 8 wicketkeeper batsmen in the country. Then when I was picked for the next level, I was like, I'm one of the top wicketkeeper out of the 4 in the country. Because we were picked for a camp, there were only 4 wicket keepers in that camp. So, and then when I got that, I was like, not too many wicket keepers have got 100, so I'm making a name for myself.
Right.
So I think those things started sinking in, and then obviously that confidence level started going up, saying, I think I can, because a lot of my teammates said, you keep going this way, you will be around for a while. And that's something that gave me a lot of confidence.
Well, it's interesting you touch on being one of the 8 best wicketkeeper batsmen in the country. We've obviously had a discussion, or we've often had a discussion in this country about how difficult it is to open in a test match and also keep wicket. How was that for you? That's a hell of a lot of responsibility when you first come into a side.
It was, and I think I was asked if I would open in the second test match, because the first test match in South Africa, Rahul opened, and in the second, Rahul was like, I want to bat at number 3. That's my position. And then before the second test match, I think eve of the second test match, Saurav asked me if you want to open. I was like, listen, I can bat anywhere as long as I'm playing. I'm ready to bat anywhere. He said, okay, then open, because in the first test match I had actually batted against the second new ball, and I did all right. So they saw that in me, so I said, as long as I'm playing, I wouldn't mind batting anywhere. So I opened. How I see it is, if you are physically strong and mentally strong, then the other aspect becomes a little easier, because as a wicket keeper, if I've kept wickets on a surface for 80 overs, I know that surface better than anyone else.
Right.
The bounce, the turn, the pace of the pitch, I know it better than anyone else. It's just the problem is whether physically am I fatigued, mentally whether I'm fatigued or not. So because my career was only 2-3 years, maybe if I played longer, I would have had to take it. I had to choose then, like someone like Sangha did. He chose to bat top order and leave wicket keeping.
Yeah.
So I think in the long run, it becomes very difficult. But for a couple of seasons or 2-3 years, I think it's doable, and especially if you're in your early 20s.
Yeah, that's quite interesting. You went on to captain Bengal, and I'm not quite sure without looking through all the previous scorecards. Were you doing the 3 jobs then, captaining, opening, and keeping wicket?
I actually was batting at number 6, but then when Saurav would would be then our middle order was packed, so we had to make space at times. So I would open then. So for example, the second year, the finals I opened against Mumbai. So yeah, I mean, I was happy to I was more flexible in my approach, depending on what the team required, and because my philosophy is this, and if I want somebody to take the bullet for the side, I would be the first one to do it. So if there was a situation where somebody had to maybe call it sacrifice or whatever, I think I would want to be the first one to do it, and maybe that would set an example for the others.
And what's it like then being, I suppose, captain of a team in which Sourav Ganguly is playing after you've been used to him as a captain at international level?
My first game, the team sheet, I've got it framed because it said Deep Dasgupta captain and the second name is Sourav Ganguly. That's for my grandchildren, actually.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. Oh, that's lovely. That's lovely. Let's move on and talk about Sourav Ganguly, who's relatively recently become the BCCI president. I suppose with guerrilla cricket, we're always looking to expand the game. We're always talking about the game globally. It's something that our listeners and viewers are very, very interested in. I think initially when Ganguly took on the role, he's actually talking about India getting more of the money that's being generated because India does actually generate that revenue. Would that, in your view, does that harm the development of the game? I mean, is that something that we should be resisting? Should we be trying to widen the boundaries a little bit?
It is important to widen the boundaries. I think we need to figure out how, because I mean, unlike a lot of sports, we have 3 formats.
Yeah.
Right. We've got 3 formats, and not just men. We've got women's cricket as well. So I think there are 2 aspects to this. One is obviously the financial side of it, and I was talking to one of the ICC people because this was, and I spoke to this gentleman around 2 years ago when the number of teams that were playing the 50 over one day, the World Cup came down to 10, and there was a huge debate about whether it should come down and all that. And he said, listen, there are ways that we need to find out to kind of spread the game. Because unlike football, if you take football to a new country, FIFA makes money, right? But in cricket, when ICC takes sport to a different country, it's ICC who has to give the grants. So it's ICC losing money. So somewhere it needs to be compensated, right? So, unlike other sports, it's the other way around. It's where ICC has to fund the new countries or the new teams or associate countries and all. So I think from that perspective, it's very, very important to keep in mind of boards which actually can compensate for the growth of the sport to other countries. So I think there has to be a fine balance between, making in the money, getting it commercially viable to spread the sport to other parts as well.
Do you think, though, I mean, we've moved on a little bit from the notion of the big 3 from a couple of years ago when, India, Australia and England were accused of sort of creating this cabal. Do you think that we can move on beyond that and absorb more teams into the game in general?
I think we can. We definitely can. But again, like I said, we have to find the right balance between generating the finances to spread the sport. We need to figure out what's the right vehicle to spread the sport as well. In my opinion, I think women's cricket is the best vehicle to spread the sport. I mean, I don't think you find a better vehicle than women's cricket right now.
Right.
Spread it, beyond the Commonwealth countries.
Yeah.
I honestly think there is, there has to.
Regrettably, that stumped has been called on day 1 of the first test. We'll resume tomorrow, partway through and over, with Pakistan 126 for 5. Babar Azam seems to be playing a lone hand of 25. Mohammad Rizwan is on 4 not out. The men to go: Shah Masood LBW to Anderson for 1. Azhar Ali caught by Rory Burns off James Anderson for 20. Abid Ali caught by Rory Burns off Sam Curran for 60, an absolutely unplayable delivery. Asad Shafiq caught by Dom Sibley off the bowling of Stuart Ward for 5, an almost unplayable delivery. And poor Fawad Alam, 11 years, 88 tests, 8,000 first-class runs, and you get a duck on your return. 2 wickets for Anderson, 1 for Broad, 1 for Curran, 1 for Wokes. Nothing yet for Dom Bess. It's been a tricky day for Pakistan. It's been a tricky day for all of us. we're not really sure how good the weather is going to be tomorrow, we'll be honest, but we'll be here at 10:50 a.m. UK time in tomorrow morning. 10:45 in fact, of course, because we'll be doing a little bit of digging on Jimmy Anderson. But until then, goodbye.
Guerrilla.